What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to Tour Life with myself, Brody Smith, and I'm here, as always, with Yuli. We have, I would say, probably our biggest episode yet. The one that I think a lot of you guys are going to love. We've got Simon Lizotte coming up to talk about all sorts of stuff. We've got Paige Pierce, who just came off of her first win in the longest stretch, over 8 months. Granted, some of that was in the offseason. Lots to ask her. And then we've got tons and tons of other stuff to get into, as well as potentially the most heated debate me and Yuli might get into over this course design from the Open at Austin. So without further ado, I want to get through some things before we get Simon on here. First and foremost, big shout out and thanks to all our new channel members. We are now in double digits, Yuli. We have reached 10 channel members. We've got Jet, Dice, Bald Brian, Obi Lee, Jesse Rayson, Pryal, P Week 23, David Lingfelter, and Robert Soul. So if you're joining us live right now on YouTube, you will see all those people. Oh, and Michael Ferguson literally just joined this moment. You can use emojis. Yuli, we now have unlocked new capabilities with the emojis, meaning we have more spots. Okay. So we're going to need you to send us some artwork so we can get some Yuli emojis. People want to throw some Yuli emojis in the chat. So we'll work on that with Silas and get those Yuli emojis for you guys for next week. But really appreciate all that. And I think at some point, once this kind of gets going, we could potentially even have like a Q&A session with just some of the channel members. Could be a cool way of doing it. So look into that. Also, if you notice, we have new artwork. Tentatively. Throw it on the screen for you. I don't know if you saw it or not. This was sent in by Go Legit on Twitter. I think it's a work in progress. He said he's got a lot of. Someone said that there needs to be like a Dark Horse and Yuli logo on the van. Someone said that there should be an airplane on there because we travel by plane a lot of times and not actually in an RV. Yeah. But we also had one of our, I would say, old OG editors and designers reach out to me on Twitter, Keto, and was like, yo, I want to do a Twitter contest. Like I want to be involved in the artwork process. So if you think you have an awesome idea for channel artwork, or even potentially like, I think some people are wanting to have some merch potentially, maybe a hat, a shirt, a disc. There's a lot of things that could happen from this. If you're interested in all of it, me and Yuli are not designers. If you love doing this stuff, send it to us over on Twitter or DM us on Instagram or whatever. We'll find it and we'll move from there. But I think this was pretty dope from Go Legit. He just did it out on the whim.
Yeah, I like that. I think maybe in like 2 years, though, we might have to switch that to a private jet.
A little logo. PJ action? A little PJ?
Ooh,
all right.
Living large.
Let's get into our recap from our picks from last week. I don't want to say that I dominated you, Yuli, but I kind of dominated you. I picked the winner, first time ever picking the winner this year, Gannon Buhr, and I got Calvin Heinberg for third. So I have 5 points. You did get a point for Paul Macbeth with finishing 10th, and you also got a point for Eagle McMahon finishing 6th. So we are right now, it's honestly still neck and neck. I did hear that people might want us to increase. I'm open to this. I'm open to half a point for top 20. No? Lame? There was some chatter about it. There was some chatter.
But then we just be half pointing all the time because the guys that we're going to be picking, because we only get 3.
That's fair.
Are going to get top 20 no matter what. I think it's big. Hats off to you for picking the winner because that's a big time move there in our race this year.
I felt good. I felt good with Gannon's game going into that course. I felt like it set up really well for him. So.
And kind of going down the stretch. I mean, we're kind of battling Eagle. We'll get into that later, but Eagle's right there.
We'll definitely get into that. There's lots. For now we'll shelve that. We'll keep it with 3 points for the winner, 1 point for top 10. We'll shelve it at that. and move forward. But shout out, as always, to our guru over on Twitter, bringing these stats to us. Steve's nerd, still killing the game with the graphics and the tables and all the tabulations and stuff. We appreciate that as well. I'm really, really excited to get the chance to actually talk to Simon, because I felt like he had, gosh, did he have like maybe the biggest under the radar second place of all time?
I don't know about that because I feel like sometimes there's been like people who just dominated and then second place was just like up for grabs. And I've been
Okay.
somebody who's like kind of snagged a little second place, but never been in the hunt
Backdoor.
type deal. So I don't know about that, but I do think, which I feel like I'm going to ask him. I don't think he played good, and then he
I
accidentally
think he's going
got
to
that.
say the same thing. I
Yeah.
think he's, and we'll get into when we talk about the recap of the actual tournament. We'll get into it a little bit. I watched the whole gatekeeper coverage, so I got to see Gannon's complete round, and I was actually, if you just watch, like, without him putting, you don't watch any putting, and you just watch his drives and upshots for like the first like 7 holes, you'll be like, did he cash? I don't know if like you wouldn't know if he cashed or not from the way he was throwing. He just putted lights out. His first 4 holes, his closest putt he made was like 39 feet. He
Okay.
just was just disgusted. He would just throw an upshot to like a 200-foot upshot to 45 feet, and then bang, just center. So
Okay.
we'll get into that a little bit. But I thought that was kind of, I don't know, a little surprising to me to see how bad his forehand upshot game was. And I think he did talk a little bit about that. But going back to the Simon, I agree with you. I'm very curious to see what his thoughts are, because I don't think he really felt like he played his A-plus game out there. But we'll pull up the stats and stuff to kind of see what actually went down. And again, I wish these stats told more of a story. Oh,
Yeah.
here we go. We got Simon in the queue. We'll have him here on his
Okay.
second. Size has got him in there. So once he gets thrown in, we'll have him. But I wish the stats, Yuli, like broke down. I've been saying this forever. I wish there was more than just C2 putting. I really wish there
Oh, for
was
sure.
like 35 feet to 40, 40 to 45, 45 to 50, because especially on this course. Oh, here we go. We got the man himself, Simon. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Excuse my kind of crappy internet, but I'm working. I'm working on it.
Trust me, no one watching right now live is upset with what they've had to deal with, the crackle with me and Yuli. You are doing fantastic. We are happy that you were able to join us. We appreciate it. And firstly, congratulations on second place. We were just literally talking about how I personally thought it was kind of just like what I would consider like a dark horse second place, of where you kind of just like snuck into it somehow, without like when I found out you got second place, I was like, what the heck? Because normally I hear a lot of chatter about like, oh my God, Simon's crushing it and whatnot. And I feel like this tournament was very interesting because so many people, the top 6 people were all on different cards. So
I think,
it was a weird one.
yeah, I think with like 12 holes to go, I was in 40th place. So,
Wow.
yeah, second place was definitely a shocker for me too. I mean, as I was starting to play better, I was obviously keeping track of the scores. And the cool thing was about the last 2 tournaments, Waco and Austin, that literally 3 strokes will gain you 30 spots,
Yeah.
which is something we have not seen before almost at all in disc golf. And it's like last weekend was honestly one of the first times I didn't feel like giving up, because usually if you get 30th or 28th, it's kind of like whatever, because that's what your 3 strokes will gain you. But if you get 30th or top 10, like that's worth fighting for every freaking second. So I was just like, damn, I was playing good on the back 9, and I was like, just don't give up, and who knows, maybe you can squeeze in a top 10. And then I check out the scores, and I'm like, oh, I could win.
When did you check to see Like at what point were you checking to be like, oh, I can win this thing? Like right when you made the turn after 9 holes?
After hole 12. 12 was the par 4 that was kind of like a left to right with OB kind of all over the place. I birdied 10, 11, 12. I did birdie 9, 10, 11, 12 actually. So then I took a peek.
Birdie on 9 is good. That's a tough birdie.
Yeah, I took a double bogey round 1 and then birdie at round 2 and 3. So
wow,
I shot even on that hole. But yeah, great birdie to get. I thought it was a pretty good hole as well. But I checked after my 4 birdies in a row because I knew I played a really weak front 9 and I was kind of probably in like 30th place, I thought. But then I checked and I was only like 2 off the lead after hole 12. I mean, lead card was like 4 or 5 holes behind us, so I knew it didn't mean much. But it's golf. Anything can happen at any time. It's never over till it's over. So I thought if I birdie out and maybe eagle 16, sorry, like who knows? Maybe there could be a chance. So I just told my caddy, like, if I shoot the best disc golf of my life right now, anything can happen. And unfortunately, I bogeyed 13 because I rolled it into the OB on the right. But other than that, I played pretty much perfect down the stretch after that, and it was enough for second because a lot of people on the lead card started like double bogeying out of nowhere.
I would say too, the way that course was also set up, a lot of times you would have people, go out and have a really great round of card, and they'd get in the clubhouse and they'd be the leader, and no one was worried about them because they're like, oh, well, the leaders haven't played 9 holes. They're going to beat this person by 5 shots. With how this course set up, if you get in the clubhouse and you have like a 2 or 3 shot lead and they have a couple holes left, 17 and 18 are not holes that are just like, oh, they're going to birdie these holes, so they're going to catch up with the person in the clubhouse. Like, putting that pressure on people to have to birdie 17 and have to birdie 18, I think changes a lot of people's perspective, or, I guess their aggressiveness coming into it, knowing that they have to birdie those holes, because they aren't holes that are just like throw one good shot and you're going to birdie it. You have to execute 2 really freaking good shots on both those holes.
I was a bit shocked and surprised that the course got the hate online that I saw. And I obviously played 2 rounds with Paul Macbeth, and he like very publicly didn't like the course. But everyone's always asking for these stroke swing holes, like where basically a birdie and a bogey come hand in hand and can happen either way. Like I went through it in my head, and I think like 13 or 14 of the holes on that course were so easily birdied or bogeyed, like a foot difference in your shot, and you can have a 2-stroke swing like instantly on like 2/3 of the course, at least I thought. So I thought people were going to like that, but for some reason people didn't.
So when I practiced the course, I was not happy my first practice round, but one that I wasn't. I mean, the Jomez practice round, I made that pretty public. As the tournament went on, though, I gained a lot of respect for the course because I thought when the wind picked up, like let's say the first round, and 5 under was the best score. I am a big time advocate for 5 under being a good score. Like that is what I want disc golf to be like. I want, if you to shoot under par, 5, 6, 7 under, that should be the lead. I was really happy about that. And so I gained a little respect for the course then, because then you could kind of battle and play a little golf. You could lay up, make sure you get par, and kind of be in the hunt. Now, second round, I thought the scores would be a little better, and they were. But I mean, then when Cole shot the 12 under, I was like, that's getting it done. You know what I mean? And as soon as you say like a 12 under is kind of like one of those rounds where it's an eye-popping round, that's not a normal thing anymore. Like if somebody did that at Waco, I'd be like, yeah, there's 7 people who did it. Who cares? But when that score came in, I was like, okay, that got it done. I gained a little more respect. And then finally, the final round, when the conditions were calm, exactly what you're saying, Simon, these holes didn't really get easier. They're still right in front of you, and they're 2-stroke swinging holes, to where I was like kind of laying up, and my score really didn't matter, but the perspective of the way that I was trying to score kind of does matter for the field. to where I was laying up on some of the holes. Hole one's a great example. Like you could get a 2, you could get a 4, you could lay up for a 3 and not lose anything to anybody. Right? You're only gaining a stroke if you get a birdie. And you're only losing a stroke if you're getting a bogey. I felt like then down the stretch, 17 being as hard as it is, I have no problem with 17. I thought that it was hilarious that everybody hated that hole. I mean, it's 2 basic shots that you have to throw.
We also
Everybody
just
can
played
throw 'em.
Waco. That's
Yeah,
the crazy thing to me. We literally just played Waco, and it's like there are so many shots that are very similar at Waco as hole 17.
I
And
mean,
didn't
not
hear
that tight, not that tight, but I get it.
Yeah, but it's like
And not that punishing
similar.
either.
I mean, I don't know. Hole 9's pretty punishing at Waco if you hit that middle tree and shoot 30 feet to the left. You know, I don't know.
Let me say this on the course. What makes a good course and a bad course? A good course, a good shot gets rewarded and a bad shot gets punished.
Yep.
If we look at Waco, or I'll even throw Vegas in there, the amount of times I see good throws get totally screwed, I couldn't even count. And we've been there for so many years, like, and the amount of times I see bad throws getting like super lucky and getting rewarded. The course in Austin was so freaking fair. Good shots, good result. Bad shots, mega punished. And I really enjoyed that.
See, I like that too, but the other thing that I like about it is this. I think that's all fine. Birdies should get rewarded. Good shots should get rewarded with birdies. Bogeys should be when you throw a bad shot, but there's got to be a way for you to get a par easily. And they provided that on the course. Like you could step up to one of the holes and lay up, get par very, very
See, I
easily.
disagree.
And move on to the next one.
I don't think par should be easy.
What do you mean?
I don't feel like. Well, I just don't feel like a par should be easy. Like to me, I thought hole 5, the one that you had to clear, like it's 480 to the basket. You had to clear the green short. You had the bunker to the right. To me, I thought if you stepped up there and you're like, I cannot, or I don't feel comfortable throwing 450 feet to clear the OB. I'm just going to throw any 300-foot shot I want, and then I have like a 180-foot upshot, and I'm going to take a par and move on. I think that's a bad designed hole. I think they should force everyone to actually have to execute a difficult shot or 2 difficult shots for par. I don't, especially like hole 1, you were saying too. Hole 1, if you weren't playing that hole for birdie, that is not a hard par. Like that hole is not hard to par if you're playing.
I saw a lot of people bogey it trying to par it for sure.
Well, my point is like I feel like I would like to see holes that are a little bit more challenging to get the par instead of a layup par. Does that make sense or no?
No, it does. Like hole 5, for example, I hear what you're saying. If there was like out of bounds lining the fairway all the way to the hole, short all the way to where the tee pad is to the hole. If you want to get a par, you have to land in a small zone, just like you were to if you want to get the birdie. I totally get that. But what you got to understand as well is a 330-foot shot is not hard no matter where you put it. You get what I mean? Like you're going to be able to throw a 330-foot layup shot within a 30-foot radius anyways. Don't you think?
It depends.
So how would you make that tough?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's why we're not course designers.
Yeah.
The problem with disc golf is that the problem with disc golf, we haven't figured out how to make a course very hard without making it very fluky.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
It's kind of sad sometimes that for us a hard course is a course that just punishes bad luck or a pretty unfortunate throw so hard, and then we're calling it like the super great championship level course. But there must be some way.
Names, Simon. We want names. What course are you talking? Are you talking about USDGC?
That's a great one to throw out there. Yes. Well, USDGC changes so much every year. It's kind of hard to just say in general if it's good or bad. But I would throw almost any course on there that has just tons of OB everywhere. It's just so punishing, and like the scramble stat in some of these events just doesn't even matter.
Oh, I
You
hate
can't
I hate
scramble.
the scramble stat is the worst stat in the world. I don't think throwing OB should go into your scramble stat. Like to me, a scramble
Yeah.
stat's like you're a little off the fairway and now you have to try to get up and down to save your par on a par four, not you threw it OB and now you're 570 feet from the basket and you have to somehow throw like the greatest roller of your life to save par. Speaking
Simon,
of stats, though, can we bring up
Oh.
your stats from this tournament? Oh, sorry. Did you have something else?
No, I was just going to
Yuli?
ask him a quick question
Yeah.
that I've been curious to ask him, especially since you've had this like reamped part of your career to where all of a sudden like you're in the mix. You won 4 times last year, second place this last weekend. You said you didn't even play that great, so you're at the top. I hear people talk about this all the time and saying that the tour is just getting better. But does that mean that Simon is getting better, or is the level the same? And there's just more better players. Well, there's obviously more better players because we just talked about it. 3 strokes got you 40th to top 10, so that's obvious. But what about the winning? What about the winning scores? The winning personalities up there at the top, are they getting better? Do you think you've gotten better in your career, or do you think that it's the same level? And it all comes down to like mental preparation or being in the right spot or momentum, or is it luck? Like, what is it? Are you practicing more than you've ever practiced? Are you not practicing as much? Like what is it? Because I feel like you're the poster child for that right there of being, you're in your 30s, you've been playing forever, and now you're playing the best you've ever played.
Yeah, I mean, that strength obviously helps a ton. But I think a huge factor is consistency. In golf, what is good is consistent. And I wouldn't say necessarily I'm a better player than I was 10 years ago, but I'm definitely more consistent. I'm way more like laid back, and all the injuries that I've went through made me very much slow down and throw the smarter, safer throws than the show-offy big throws. And yeah, I don't necessarily think the players are getting much better. It's just more of the really good ones.
Yeah.
They're getting younger. That's what they are.
There's more of them. They're multiplying. All right, so a couple questions here. First one is you got 47th at LVC, and then you come out here on another golf course style, and obviously we kind of talked about this about LVC probably is a little bit on the more fluky side than the course in Austin. Is that really all it was? Did you feel like your game wasn't that much different in Vegas than here, but you just were playing on a course that rewarded good shots and penalized bad shots?
I mean, honestly, it's a pretty fine line between 47th and second place. Like, it maybe sounds a bit absurd to say that, but if you
that
look,
makes me feel good because I got 47th at this tournament, so that
Okay.
bodes well in my future.
You almost got second, dude.
I was right there at second.
No, but just
Simon
think about
said.
how little things must have changed for you to pop a top 10. I mean, I don't know how many strokes it was for you at the end, but if I think about in Vegas, if I would have shot a 5-stroke better back nine than I did, which was definitely easily out there and could have happened, I would have probably been like 15th, and then no one would have really thought anything about it. But it's just, sometimes it just comes together, sometimes it's not. In Vegas, my last round, I just completely fell apart. I was mentally and physically exhausted. Actually, my elbow flared up on me in round 3. I almost decided to quit the tournament, and then I played on painkillers the final round, and bad throws and bad luck came together, and I just spiraled into this 2-over round, and then I just ended up in 47th. It was, overall in Vegas, I was pretty happy with how I played. The last round kind of was not really proportionate of my show that week, but it is a fine line. It really is. If you really think about every throw, if you think, oh, 1 inch here, 1 foot here, there's freaking 5 strokes. It goes so fast, and it's a game of inches, even though we're playing on these big courses.
And I think now I think now people are starting to realize a little more about the depth of the field and what that actually does, right? Because what you just said, had that been 3 years ago at Vegas and you played the same exact way, you're probably getting a top 20. But now the matter of just a couple strokes here and there is the difference between 50th place and 25th place. And that just wasn't the case. And we're only going to see this trend to continue to where at a certain point, a top player not cashing or a top player finishing down the leaderboard is not going to be like this crazy storyline of like, oh my gosh, is Simon Lizotte washed? Is he trash? And it's like, no, he just had an off week, and there's a lot of freaking good people to where when you have an off week, instead of being top 20, you now are 70th. But then you can go right back out and get a second place, a couple tournaments from there. So I think it's something that's just going to take time for people to realize.
I mean, we can easily just look at golf. We see the top names not making the cut all the time. We see them in 30th place all the time. It's like that's where we're heading. It's just going to be part of the game. And whoever is going to be consistent in the top 10, that's going to be then real impressive.
Yeah. All right, let's pull up your stats real quick because I have a few things I want to talk about. You mentioned that, I believe in an interview, you mentioned that your putting wasn't that great. However, you did putt 11 of 22 from C2.
That was really
I did
good.
see though you were where is it? You were 22nd in C1X putting. So were you missing maybe some closer ones that you felt like you should have capitalized on? Is that what you meant when you were talking about your putting?
I'm not 100% sure what happened. I am in this thing right now in my disc golf game where I'm always at 25 feet or parked. Like I'm lacking this like 15 to 30 footers. I have like so few of them where I can like make up good stats for my C1X. Sometimes I look at my putting after the round and it says like 70%. And I look back and I only missed one putt because I was bullseye or just outside the circle. So
you're like 3 of 4 and you're at 75%.
Something like that. So I don't know. These stats are, I mean, you take them with a grain of salt, I guess. I didn't feel like I missed many putts, no.
What about the increase, like the park stat? Like that one turn we played where the parks was like 20 feet away, to where then the only C1X putting would basically be from like 21 feet to 33 feet. Do you like the idea of increasing? Because like I agree with you, a 16-foot putt I don't think should be in the same category as a 32-foot putt, but right now it is.
I honestly didn't put much thought into it, but my initial reaction to it was, oh, this is interesting. I kind of like it, but I didn't really put much thought into it.
Okay.
Is it good or bad? Have you ever discussed that? I'm not sure. I kind of liked it, a bigger bullseye.
I think stats play a huge part in sports, and I think right now our putting stats don't really tell the full story. Like one putting stat that I would love to have is like feet of putts made. So you could literally be like, this person made 100 feet of putts, and then this person made 190 feet of putts today. And so like that just shows you right there, like, wow, that person putted out of their mind. Versus right now it's like if someone, like you're saying, like you're 11 of 22, your 11 misses from circle 2 could all be over 50 feet. And it's like, did you really putt that bad from circle 2? I mean, 11 from 22 is still 50%, which is really good. But my point being,
I think it's the best I've ever done.
Well, there you go. But yeah,
I think also that like our stats with as far as like a greens hit is kind of ridiculous because you can hit a green and not have a putt. Like that happens all the time. You could throw it out of bounds 8 feet away from the basket and be within the circle.
I was pissed at you, Simon, that you made that putt twice on hole 11. Very pissed at you because in my practice round, that's the one right before the par 4. In my practice round, I literally was like, if you're not short of this basket and you're like long left, you have no putt and no chance of making it. And then I think I saw one live. I was walking by when you were there, and I think I saw him coverage. You can't even see yourself. You're just blocked by a bunch of trees, and then all of a sudden you see an object just flying through and make it in. And I was like, all right, well, freaking Simon just ruined my entire breakdown of this hole. But yeah.
Yeah,
so,
there's one lane. There's one perfect lane right there that is like perfectly guides you to the basket. So lining up that 30-footer, like it felt like unmissable in a weird way.
You just had that.
Well, and then we also have these high-rise baskets, which I'm sorry, but a 30-footer just inside the circle on a high-rise is so much different than a normal-sized basket right there in front of you. Like it's got to be double as hard, I feel like, because it plays like a 40-footer, but you can't jump it. You know what I mean? Like it's just different. Like I wish they would just. We have how many of those around? Like at least 5 high-rises around. Like then that's minimal. And so at least put a little asterisk next to your name if you miss one on a high rise. Like, and you could be down a hill putting on a high rise, like on what was it, 14?
14, yeah.
I rolled away out of bounds on that one. I'm in the circle, putting up the hill on a high rise.
It's like 20 feet elevation probably at that point.
Yeah, played like an 85-footer is the best putt I've ever made in my life. But you look at it on the stat sheet and it's like, oh yeah, he made a 28-footer. Nice job. And it's like, no, I could have taken a 9. That was the hardest putt I've ever seen in my life.
I feel like we should start calling them high rise instead of elevated baskets. I think high rise is a cooler name, and we can maybe get some like high rise pizza sponsors in with this. You might be onto something, Yuli.
Thanks.
Simon, you mentioned this earlier. I kind of want to touch on it a little bit more. You were talking about how you changed from the entertaining Simon of throwing like the fan favorite shots to now where it seems like you're a little bit more calculated, a little bit, I would say maybe throwing the more higher percentage shots now. What made you have that mindset change? What got you to that point now of where you're throwing maybe shots that you can execute more that maybe aren't as, highlight reel material, if you will?
Well, do you want a really short answer or a long answer?
We can do short because I have a few more questions to ask you. And we have our favorite segment at the very end. So I want to make sure we have enough time for it.
Okay, what really changed my game was my elbow injury. And that I was just physically not able to throw the big over the top, show off crazy lines or 85 mile an hour 360s, just stuff like that. I just like literally can't do because of the pain.
Would you, if you had some like crazy shot that just made
Sarah,
you
give
go
me a
back,
hammer. Give me a hammer.
If you had a crazy shot that you could just shoot into your elbow and basically make everything back to normal, would you go back to that playing style now that you've seen how successful you were?
Ooh,
where you're at
now? That's a good question. I like that question, and actually, no one's ever asked me that before.
Well, that's what we do here on Tour Life, Simon. Okay, we ask good questions here. We're not asking the stereotypical questions.
Let me think about this for 1 second. If there was like a magical remedy for my pain just to go away and not come back, would I want it? Yes, obviously I would take it. And would I stick to the smart golf or would I go back to the stupid golf?
You'd go back to the stupid golf.
I probably would. I mean, it all has its pros and cons because here's the deal. How do we touring players make our money? By selling discs. That is, at least for me, like 90+% of my income is selling signature tour related discs. And so it's basically all
the payouts
about.
Have been surprisingly slow this year. Low.
Yeah. So basically what this sport is about is building a fan base. And for me, I was like, okay, I can be the show off, be the crowd pleaser, be that guy that just tries different stuff, has fun with it, makes it look entertaining and exciting, and build like a huge following like that. Or I can try to somehow beat freaking Paul and Ricky, which seems just freaking impossible sometimes, or that's, at least it used to be. Those guys are freaking machines. Those are robots. They're not human. They're so good. It seemed not possible. I mean, or the amount of sacrifice and discipline and worth ethic that would have to go into that just seemed like it just wasn't me. And it felt more like I can be the fun guy. I can be the entertainer. I can be I can be the guy that gives people shots and memories that they'll remember for years to come on their home courses. And that was the route I chose. And it worked. Look where I am now.
Yeah, no, it definitely did for sure. Do we want to touch on a little bit of just the craziness that went on this offseason? I know you probably have talked about it and all that. Do you feel like what you went through is going to be something that we're going to see more of in the future with these contracts getting bigger and bigger, with this young kind of group of up and comers now all of a sudden being like, hey, I need a big contract, and maybe some of these manufacturers making a little bit more, a little bit more revenue. Now they're throwing money around. Do you think kind of what you did could happen more in the future, I guess?
What do you mean?
In the sense of where, we saw, I guess, first from Paul, right, with being like known as Innova and then making the shift over to Discraft. There seems to be, like, outside of you and Paul, there seems to be there seems to be like two types of players. You have the player that like jumps around from contract to contract, right? Like every year, every 2 years, they just kind of bounce. And then you have the player that just like, them as that person, like they are with that company. What I'm saying is, like, everyone knew you as Discmania. Like Simon and Discmania went hand in hand. I think there are players out there that might have a little bit of a fear of leaving the manufacturer that have sponsored them for so long. Do you think by you making the move and showing that you are still very successful, and also obviously with your first disc drop with MVP, it did extremely well. Do you think that gives confidence in other players to be like, you know what, I'm okay with maybe going out and seeing what else is out there for me? Because I think in the past, players have just been okay with where they are and they just keep re-upping with the same manufacturer versus like kind of seeing what is out there for them.
Well, again, it could be a very long answer, but there's two sides to every coin a bit in this case. Like, there's definitely big value in being loyal and building a fan base within a company and becoming potentially the face of a company and knowing your product. And I mean, if I would have stuck with Discmania, who knows, like long term, I potentially maybe could have had stake in the company and built my future plans that way. Like, I definitely didn't have to make this move. Discmania was giving me more than enough as well. I just wanted to do it for not financial reasons. It was more because I needed like this refresh, this new start, a new motivation to even do this freaking tour again. I mean, you've been doing it now this is your third year, right? I've been doing this is my 10th year. Yuli's been doing it for 200 years ish. And it's like, it's a grind. And if you don't feel motivated anymore, that's the worst. And the burnout is real at the end of every season. So you need to find what makes you happy, what works for you. You don't really have to look at others, in my opinion, too much. Just we all know that the discs we throw don't make the difference. I mean, every company makes great discs and something we can work with. So it's all about finding your motivation and then doing what freaking makes you happy. That's as simple as I could put it.
So did you feel like it was kind of like solving a new puzzle for you, of where it's like you have all these discs that you've been so comfortable with over the years, you know exactly how they all fly, and now by getting a completely new bag with all new discs, now it feels like, all right, let me try to figure out this puzzle, see what discs I want to use, and then see if I can go out and win with a completely new set of tools, essentially. That is, you're saying, is that what kind of got you motivated for this season?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that I'm motivated to win with these discs. I am just alone motivated to throw these discs. Like, I was never someone like Yuli. You need to be a specific personality type to play the same 15 tournaments 15 years in a row. Like, I don't think everyone could just do that and continue being happy with what they're doing. It's just so repetitive. I remember the first year or two that I toured, after playing the Memorial for the second or third time in a row, I was like, I can't imagine going back and doing it for the fourth or fifth or sixth time. Like, it just, I'm like, I can't do all these things so many times in a row. And I needed something to change. And I don't know. It's just, for me, it's
So you
just a
think
huge
just
breath of fresh air.
getting a new bag essentially will force you to get out there and practice and get into the field type deal? Like, it's going to give you that motivation again to wake up and be like, no, I have to do this now. This is what I dedicated time into, and I gave them my word, so now I have to go do it. Is that
No, wrong word. Not have to, want to.
want to? Yeah.
That's the more important. I don't want to ever feel like I have to go do this. I want to feel like I want to go do this. And because I just felt a bit bored after being over a decade with the same team, there was nothing wrong there, obviously, but having something new makes me want to do everything that I felt like I had to do in my old contract.
All right. Before we get to our favorite segment when we have guests on, I think, Simon, it is getting time for us to make it happen and do a legit trick shot battle again. It's been
bring it back. Yes.
It's been years since we've done it. I don't even know if Avery would even be interested in maybe even coming aboard and making maybe a quick I know he's one of the busier people in disc golf right now with all the courses he's making. But I'm feeling like this off season, because obviously during the season is going to be nuts, but I feel like this off season we should get already the thoughts and into the works, start figuring out some locations, maybe get into some arenas, some stadiums, and bust out the old trick shots again. It's been a hot minute since I've done it. And like you were just saying, when you do the same thing over and over and over again, it kind of gets to the point of it's like, why am I doing this? It hasn't been a while. It's been a while since I've done trick shots. I'm back. I got the itch. So this off season, I think we try to make it happen, bring it back, and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I have one quick question about the first video we filmed together, and I want to know if you remember this.
Yeah, I think you broke your wrist.
Yeah, you remember that part. I remember that too, but it's way before the wrist thing happened. So the day we first met, we played this disc golf course together, some Dallas course, and it was off camera. It was off camera. We just played because I think Avery wanted to play disc golf with you. I didn't really remember why we played it, but we played it.
Okay.
And hole one, I stepped up and aced it. And you seemed so unimpressed because you didn't really, I guess, care or understand what disc golf was all about. And you do trick shots all the time, so you probably thought like, oh yeah, that happens all the time. I guess you just throw up and ace it. But I was like so proud because I mean, you were freaking Brody Smith at the time, the YouTube trick shot superstar, and I stepped up on hole one and just freaking aced it in our face, and you had like no reaction at all. You like talked about it like, oh yeah, that happens all the time.
I think honestly with disc golf,
he doesn't even remember it.
Yeah, I don't even remember that.
I thought you would remember it.
But I also have terrible memory. But I do remember Simon trying to do like a backflip off a tree and then like landing on the. You know what's really funny, Yuli? The two trick shots I've done with disc golf, like crazy stuff happened, and and also let's be real, disc golf at that time was way smaller than it was now.
Yeah.
So like it wasn't this big. Me and Avery had a lot of discussions over like disc golf needs to do this and did this, whatever. But like when Simon hurt himself, I could see like how frazzled Simon and Avery were. Like, oh my gosh, this is like terrible. And I'm like, the dude just hurt himself. Like, get over it. Like, he'll figure it out and whatever. I didn't realize the implications of like the season he was about to have and like how he can't throw anymore. And then when we did the video with Paul, that was literally when he was making the switch from Innova to Discraft. So he was throwing like all non-stamped Discraft discs. And like everyone on set was like being super secretive and like, oh, you can't show this. And oh, don't take that camera. And I'm just like back here being like, what? These guys are so weird. What is going on? Like, we're just throwing trick shots. Why are they making this such a big deal? I had no idea. And I think that's similar to when someone makes an ace, because it was the same thing with Kelsey. Like when I played with Kelsey and I would throw a really good shot in disc golf, zero reaction. And I just think it's like until you're in the sport and you know the sport, it just looks like, well, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do, right? Like when you shoot a 3-pointer, it's supposed to go in the basket. When you throw a shot from 300 feet, it's supposed to go in the basket. And it's like, well, yeah, but it's a lot harder to do than you think. So I just don't think that necessarily translated. So I apologize, Simon, for not reacting.
That's all
but
good.
I feel like I've reacted to enough of your good shots to make up to it at this point.
Yeah. Let me last thing I want to say. Last thing.
Yeah.
So the injury I got that Brody was hinting at, one of the worst moments of my life, I think. One of the worst judged moments of my life where I thought I could pull off a backflip off of a tree, which I've never done before in my life. I don't know what was in my head that I thought, oh, yeah, I'll do that. Because
well, I think you were testing it as like a celebration to a trick shot, I think is what it was.
And it would have been one of the greatest fail clips to ever hit the internet because I fully face planted and scorpioned. It was pretty bad. It was rough. Like my face was all scratched up. I freaking shattered my left wrist. But the camera, man, we filmed it with this super slow-mo camera. And you have to hit the button for it to record the last 5 seconds or something. And he was so shocked by my fall that he forgot to press the button. And we didn't even have the mega fail on camera. So it wasn't even worth it.
I just remember being watching that happen and just who am I filming with? What is going on right now?
This guy's a psycho.
I think I just got done filming with Brooks Koepka or someone like that, and I was like, "What is happening right now?" But man, wow, good times, dude. Good times.
We walked it off.
Okay, our favorite segment, Simon, is pet peeves. Okay, and this is where we give you the floor to give you the opportunity to tell us and the audience watching right now what are your biggest pet peeves in disc golf. And this could be anything from what other players do when you play, what locals do while you're playing, what fans do while you're playing, anything regarding disc golf, your biggest pet peeves. And if you need some time to think, me and Yuli always have, even though we've probably done 50 at this point, we always can come up with some. So just let us know if you need us to throw some out there.
I can think of a couple right off the bat. So first, one of the biggest pet peeves of mine is anyone yells something in German at me, which happens basically every day. I don't know why everyone thinks they're so original in what they're saying, but I've heard everything 5,000 times. So it just feels weird. I can't deal with it.
What are they yelling? Hey, Simon, in German? Or
they say some random word, but mostly related to beer or something. I don't know. It's just something they've picked up along the American school system. I don't know how it works.
Okay, so they don't actually speak German. They just learned one German word.
They know 2 or 3 words and they just spit it at me.
Okay.
Another thing I can think of right now is, I used to throw really far. I was known for throwing putters really far and on holes where people would usually not throw putters. So often when I throw this great distance driver tee shot and I'm so thrilled about it, then people come up to me oh, was that a putter? And start laughing. And I guess that's something where I'm just I'm so happy with myself that I just threw this great shot and then people think it was a putter or they joke about it, which happens all the time too, but every time someone thinks it's original. Oh, another one comes to mind. I don't know if you've ever saw my silver Sharpie fail.
No.
One time on my YouTube channel, this is Vlogmas, a couple of years ago.
Where you dropped the Sharpie on a disc.
I sold the disc for $2,900. And as I went to sign it with a silver Sharpie, the Sharpie exploded as I opened it and splattered all over the disc. And I ruined the whole disc. And every time now someone gives me a silver Sharpie to sign a disc, they have to make some silver Sharpie joke or reference. And it's I've heard it 1,000 times. I guess it's really funny, but I've heard it too many times.
I saved one of my biggest pet peeves for this moment, for when we had Simon on the show. So this is one of my biggest pet peeves is when I'm playing. It can be a random place where I'm playing with just locals, or it can be in a tournament where there's an obvious line and I decide to go out and around, and then they go, "Oh, you took the Simon line."
Ooh.
And I'm like, "The what?" They're like, "The Simon line. You went big over the trees." And I'm like, "Oh, that guy ruined all of us. He ruined all of us."
My post that I had on like TikTok even, which is wild because like the TikTok disc golf is not like big over there, and I have a lot of followers not from disc golf over on TikTok, obviously. And I posted the Waco hole 18 shot, and I threw a really good shot with the driver, and I got like the Happy Gilmore like, yeah, Simon did that with a putter though, and it's just like,
Yeah.
well, I had a headwind. First off, sir. But yeah, you kind of ruined a lot of people in that regard,
Yeah,
Simon, in the sense of where people are just like comparing us to you being able to throw like 120 miles per hour. And it's like, okay, well, we're not Simon, so it is what it is, man. It is the best we got. It is all we got.
I get another pet peeve. I guess when I'm playing with people on the card and they throw a disc and they act like super surprised by what their disc did, and then they
That's a
go
good
like,
one.
"Oh, it flipped," even though they threw it on like a turnover. It's like, yeah, you threw it there. Clearly.
I like the fact that like for somehow when you took the disc after you threw it and put it in your bag, and then the time it was in your bag and you took it out, something happened to where now the disc does not fly the way that
Do you guys think,
remembered
though,
it fly.
do you guys actually think that like you can throw a disc and it mess up the disc so much that the next one it just has a completely different flight characteristic? Do you think that's real?
Yes. If you chip the bottom of the disc, have you ever done that?
I'm just asking. That's a yes, Simon?
Yeah.
I would say yes, or it's
Well, then give those guys a break, man.
no, but it's like it happens so much.
But you should know that. You should know that, like, oh my gosh, I just threw my disc into a chainsaw that was running. Like, this is probably going to fly different the next time I throw it.
True. Don't trust it.
Oh, I have
man.
another pet peeve. Oh, I don't know. I get a bit like weird. How do I call it? How do I say this not offensively? I feel like when people dress extremely obnoxiously, that kind of like weirds me out a bit. I'm like, why do you need to dress weirdly to like make an impression? That just seems like.
Are you on the dress code?
Weird.
Are you part of the dress code police a little bit?
No, I don't care. I just find it weird sometimes how people play in like neon green and pink. I just don't get it. I just like, why just dress normally and focus on your game?
Well, just to combat that a little bit, I would say maybe how like you were talking about, entertaining the crowd with like crazy and awesome shots. I'm thinking maybe they're like, hey, if I put this outfit on, this is like people are gonna love this. Like, let's be real. Like when Ricky put on that bucket hat, the amount of people that were talking about him in that bucket hat, even though he looked ridiculous, I mean, it worked. It worked. Like everyone was talking about the bucket hat. So there might be a little bit to that, but I am with you. I'm glad we don't have any guys like playing in dresses or like pajama pants. This was very, very common in the ultimate Frisbee world of where you would just like show up to play against a team and they're all in dresses and you're just like, this team cannot score on us. If this team scores on us, I'm chewing you all out. We are not letting this team in dresses score on us. But we'll see kind of how that goes, because obviously that is a very hot topic with a lot of players, is like the dress code thing. People get on me all the time for like wearing jerseys and not wearing a polo. So it'll be interesting. That'll be something that I think everyone
One
will
more
always
pet peeve.
debate about.
One more pet peeve. When someone warms up at the practice basket with more than 3 putters.
Ooh.
I hate it. I hate it. I think it's disrespectful.
That is a good one. I do like when we have setups where like there's multiple baskets. Like Innova is really good at having like tons and tons of practice baskets, to where if you do want to have like a stack of 10, everyone has their own basket. But I agree, like in a situation with like Waco where we have like 2 baskets and someone just like rattling off 8 putts, you kind of just like sitting there like, what the heck's going on?
Made me more angry than the Waco setup we had. I mean, listen,
it's the worst.
It's the worst. They put us on a tiny island, like a 10 by 10 island, and then they put the winds up to maximum speed. They put a high rise up there. If you miss, you're going into the street, scuffing up your putters. Like,
I do like the fans though. I wish there was like some ropage to where they felt like they can't just like walk up on you. But one of my favorite practice facilities we did was Portland, where we were on the driving range and the fans could like watch us throw. I don't know if you guys remember that, but as a fan, there would be nothing cooler. Honestly, going and watching play would be sweet, but I would love to be able to watch Simon, Paul, you, Ricky, everyone throw all at once. Like that seems fascinating. And so if we can do that in more locations, I think that would be great to have fans to be able to actually watch us warm up and throw shots. So, all right, Simon, we'll let you go. We appreciate your time.
Wait, one more question, Simon. Last question.
Go, Yuli.
One more question.
This is it. This is the big.
I have one more question after that, and then I'm done.
Okay. With all the young up and comers, all the players at the top right now, you're there competing with all of them. Whose game do you like the most? You can't answer myself. Like, whose game are you like? That guy's nice. Like, he's nice.
Don't even throw my name in that thing if he can't answer. Yuli, geez, shots fired.
Who do I watch and I'm really impressed?
Yeah, like who's the person that you're like? No, that's my favorite person to watch. Like, I like the way he plays.
First thing that comes to mind might be a bit surprising to you guys, but every time I play with Niklas Antila, I'm so mind blown on how that small body can generate the power and precision that he does. And every time he's behind me on the scoreboard, I'm like, how? You're a genius. Like, how are you doing worse than me right now? Because I don't know, every time I've played with him, he's freaking beat me by 10 strokes. And it's like, how do you not win every single tournament? So he's one of the most impressive humans to watch throw. Just angle control and sneaky power.
Yeah, I was gonna say his power is similar to your power as well, of where it doesn't look like it's much effort. It doesn't look like you're really trying to muscle the disc out there, but it just freaking flies out of his hand. So that's a good pick. All right, are you a question for us, you said?
Yeah, one quick just courtesy question about how we're supposed to act, because I know not everyone has to deal with this, but I'm sure you guys do, like I do. So often during warm-up time before my round, I have to deal with gallery people watching, asking for selfies or signatures. I even have to deal a lot with staff asking me for signatures or a quick photo, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes before my round starts. And I feel like a huge dick saying no, but at the same time, I really don't want to say yes. So I'm like, how do we deal with that? Or should people be briefed better before tournaments? Because sometimes our U-disc scorer is like talking to us like before like really important moments in our round or like key shots. And sometimes I feel like a dick, like actually caring about this, but at the same time, should we have to deal with that?
No, it's a good question.
I think you hit it on the nose with the debriefing before people come in. They should really get a good outlook of like what's allowed and what's not allowed. I think that they should be told like, hey, if these guys are warming up in the field, there's no talking to them. You can say something like, hey, you're my favorite player, or just sit there and waiting. And if we decide to go over there and sign that disc, then that's a bonus type thing. Because when I've been to other sporting events, that's the way that it is. Like, you're not allowed around those guys. You can wait while they walk from tee to tee, and you can hold it out there, and maybe they'll stop, maybe they won't. And another thing is, it's a little bit of read the room, a little. You know what I mean? Like, the guy's putting, he has 5 minutes before his tee. You know this because you're going to go follow him in the round. Like, it's not the time or the place. I don't think you should feel like you're being uncourteous to these people. I think that you should. What I tell them is, I say, I'm going to be signing stuff after the round.
Yeah.
And then
go.
No, and then after the round, sometimes I don't even sign stuff. Like, it's not.
And after the round, they come up and give you like 6 discs.
Yeah, like
So this
sometimes
is
my obligation to my fans is like I don't want them to see me at I've been struggling on the course. Sometimes I just leave because there is no person that wants to deal with Paul Ulibarri after I've had my ninth bad round in a row. You know what I mean? Like I get out of there because I have an obligations to my fans too for them to like not have to deal with grumpy Paul Ulibarri. Like that is not something that I want them to even ever see. And so it comes down to I really feel like the staff needs to make that abundantly clear that we should have a safe place to leave when we get done and not even have to walk by them, like a safe clearing to leave. And when we get there, they should be debriefed on like, hey, you're not even allowed to like be right there, like read the room kind of deal.
So I would say kids get a pass. So if
Yes,
I'm walking
I
to
agree. I totally agree.
if I'm walking
100%.
to a thing and like a 7-year-old's like, hey, can you sign my hat? They get a pass. The other thing that I do a lot is like if I'm walking, because first off, if I'm actually like putting practice or like throwing into a net or something like that, and someone asks, I'm normally like, now's not the right time. Or Seth is actually really good at this too, of where if he sees someone trying to do that, he'll walk over to them and say, which I think we need to have. I think there needs to be like a handler or something, especially like in Waco, that is like if someone's trying to do something while you're putting, it's not you being the bad guy. It's someone on staff walking over to them being like, he's not signing anything right now. The other thing I'll do is like walk. So like if someone's like, hey, can I have a selfie? Instead of me stopping and like waiting for their phone to come out and take a selfie, I'm like, yep, keep walking with me though. And then they'll literally, if they really want a selfie with me, they'll walk with me. And when their phone's out, grab it, take a photo, and then boom. Same thing with signing. If someone really wants a signature, and I'm like, all right, come walk with me. I'm walking to wherever. Like that's a good way instead of like stopping. Because if you stop, then that also opens up
There's
the
a line.
floodgates of everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh, Simon's signing stuff. And then you don't know when to say no.
Yeah, it sucks. All right,
Yeah.
I'll leave you guys with this. Final round last weekend. Last hole, I'm tied for the lead. A guy comes up on 18th tee pad and asks me for a selfie.
How do you
And
even
I
get
took
that
it.
close?
I
How
took
do you
it.
get that close?
I took a selfie on the 18th tee with a
And then you
fan. It
birdied.
was
You need
great.
to take a selfie before you tee off every hole, dude.
And then I birdied.
There were
It was
fans back by
crazy.
the tee box.
I
There
think
was not even
VIP
much
passes were
room
allowed
back
back there. Oh yeah.
Oh, it was like one of the VIP people. Jeez. Okay. All right. Well, Simon, we appreciate your time. I know everyone listening loves it. And what's your next event's going to be? Music City or what?
Yes. Yep. 2-week break, and then I'm really excited for that because I have never been there.
Nashville's
And
awesome.
then it finally ramps up. So I'm excited to get a couple more tournaments in. And man, I just filmed my first vlog this evening for the first time in like 5 weeks. So I'm excited for the weather to get better and play more disc golf because I need to learn those discs.
There you go. Well, we always appreciate Simon, and we're going to have you back on, I'm sure, at some point in the season. We appreciate it. Have a great night, man.
All right. Good luck. Bye.
All right. See ya. All right. There's Simon Lizotte. I think Paige is in the wings. So we're going to keep this thing going, Yuli. But geez, what'd you think of Simon? Pretty.
Man, he's
someone
always
that-
so articulate with his answers and stuff. Man, he's a good interview. He really is, man. Hats off
for
to
someone
him.
that English isn't his first language.
I know that's crazy.
That's crazy. Like,
But that's why he's like so popular with everybody is because he has a voice that you just want to listen to and watch. Like that's why his vlog. I watch his vlogs. Like they're entertaining. I don't watch disc golf content. I watch Simon's vlogs.
I'll say one thing that I can probably learn something from Simon is he does a good job of taking a second to gather himself before he answers. Like, unless he obviously has something right off the top of his head,
Yeah.
he does a good job of not just starting to talk. That's something that I obviously struggle, I would say, a lot. Of like, if someone asks a question or something, I is immediately first thing off the top of my head. And it definitely could get me in trouble sometimes. He does a really good job of just taking a moment, gathering his thoughts, and then being able to present them in a way that is pretty fascinating. So we'll definitely have to have him back on the show. I mean, I don't know. He might be one of the better interviews that we do all year. Like, he's just very
Absolutely.
fascinating to ask questions and hear his opinions on certain things.
He ain't afraid to ask him too. He really gets after it.
That is true. But we got
He's
Paige
honest.
here. Well, she'll be popping in here in a second. Once Silas gets it all set up, and we got tons of questions for Paige as well. I told you this episode is gonna be jam packed for all you guys watching. Lots went down. We haven't even gotten to some of the other topics that happened this week, but we are excited to get Paige on here and hear exactly what went down with her. And also, I know you have some questions as well that you want to ask her. So we'll just wait here for a second or two until Paige is ready to go. And there she is. Can you hear us all right, Paige?
Yes, I can hear you great.
Nice. I know you've been making the rounds this week, so we do appreciate you jumping on and talking to me and Yuli this week. First time on Tour Life. We appreciate it and are excited to have you on here.
Yeah, good to be on here. Congrats on the new podcast.
Thank you. Yuli, did you want to open it up with some questions that you had?
Oh yeah, for sure. First, congratulations on the big weekend. That had to have been awesome. I mean, coming from
Thank you very
Texas
much.
and being a Texas local and being able to take home that title, I bet that felt really great. I guess the first question I would just ask you is, how are you feeling after the tournament? You've had some time to digress a little bit and take it all in, and it's been quite a long time since you took down an elite series. What was it, 8 months? Is that what I saw from your last win? Is that correct? Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, I won. Yeah, I can hear you. Yes. Yeah, it feels great. It feels, like second event of the season. So to start out strong, get a win in early in the season is great. And give me some confidence moving forward in the season and something to look back on and remember confident and comfortable I felt. So if any doubt creep in at any point, I can just kind of rewind and replay the memories from that and use those feelings going forward.
Yeah, I feel like it's tough, like especially for people at your caliber. I mean, one of the greatest to ever do it. But you have a time where, let's say, you don't win any tournaments for even a couple tournaments, and then people start talking and kind of come at you with, oh well, she's never going to win again, and all these different things. I mean, I see the comments, and obviously you're probably
Mhm.
aware of them as well. Like, what is it like to have to kind of digest that, and then moving forward, like how do you digest that, and how do you like remain confident and just like kind of do you let it brush off your shoulder, or do you like take it in and dialogue it and have to figure things out? Like, what is that like mentally for you?
Yeah, it's super tough. I think that's the hardest part of the job by a long shot is just like voices that aren't my own. You already have as an athlete, you have, especially in the game of golf. I'm sure you guys have seen the Full Swing, the Netflix thing.
Yeah.
Like, it was so cool to watch that and to hear pros talk about their mindset because a lot of that is similar. And they talk about how, it's a sport where you win so little and you lose so often. And, chasing that win, feeling those feelings are so addicting. But for for most plays, like you're losing a lot more than you're winning. And for a career up to this point, like I felt like I have had a lot of wins, and it's been almost like at certain points you're almost like a given, or like I felt like I expect to win, and that kind of went away for a while, and it was like, man, I hope I can get a win. Um, so like, I guess like to answer your question, like I try to just ignore all that. Otherwise, like I'm just going to be, sad or down on myself or feeling like not confident at all. So for me, I just kind of don't pay attention to that, and I'll just try to keep myself as positive as possible. That's even more to think about than just the doubt you already feel in yourself. Other people's doubt seeps in, and then that's just a recipe for failure.
Earlier, we had Simon on Page, and we were talking about how the men's side of things has gotten so deep. The field has gotten to the point of where a few strokes now can be the difference between a top 10 and 40th place. And I think something that's happening at even a more drastic level right now on the FPO side, and something that you have mentioned, and honestly, a lot of people, when they win, they mention about how the field has gotten so much better. And I think we're talking about how I just don't know if fans have really grasped that yet, of where you used to probably be able to go out and have an off week and still win. And now we're seeing now, instead of just maybe one or two or three people that you get into a field and having to win, there are multiple people now that have a chance to win. We saw Ella have that epic battle at Waco. We've seen Valerie take down wins. We've seen a lot of people now just be able to kind of pop off and do well. Do you feel like you have seen a huge growth in the amount of people that you are directly competing against when you go into these tournaments now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like, it could be like where you made one or two or three mistakes and you drop a couple strokes and yeah, you're still right in there. Maybe that costs you the win, but you're like pretty much still guaranteed second or even third. But now like actually I was on Smashbox last night and they mentioned that it was Kristen's first time off the podium in whatever the stat was. But I was so confused when they prefaced the question like that. And I'm like, Kristen didn't podium? Like, what do you mean? And then I checked the thing and she got fifth place. And really, like, she only dropped a couple strokes. And so that's like a testament to that. What you're saying right there is like, she played well enough to win, and she had a couple missed putts and a couple bad drives. And she fell from shooting for the lead to now fifth place. And so I think that is a testament, like a real time example right there of what you're saying, Brody. And it's so true. It's so true. Like in the men's, like, you see Cole. I was following Cole. I was kind of rooting for Cole, like, shooting a 12 under and then, being a young kid coming up and, I'm following him and he takes a bogey, it takes, a bogey and a par and he drops like 12 spots. And so it's absolutely transitioning like that into the women's division as well.
Yeah, I think that's great to see because initially when I first got into the sport, on Grip Lock, they do a lot of like picks of where they pick like the top three players and they want to see like who's going to finish first, second, and third. And it was literally a given every single week. It was Paige, Kat, and then they would sprinkle someone in at third, where the same thing with MPO. It was Paul, Ricky, and they would sprinkle someone in now. I think you can't really necessarily even do that. Now, I would say, like, obviously your game and Kristen's game not only translate over to more courses than a lot of people. Like, there are specialists that you're like, okay, they can only play on this style course versus this. And you and Kristen obviously have proven you can win on any style of course. But I think that's more fascinating, too, for the fans, of where it's just more competition for you guys. We don't necessarily just want to see you two guys. Obviously, we want to see you guys, the best players, competing against each other. But we don't really want to see like a dominance thing of where it's just like a huge, massive drop off from like the first and second player in the world and then everyone else.
Right.
So it's really cool to kind of see some of these younger players coming up and kind of, also just pushing you guys to the limit, right?
Totally,
like where you feel like you can't just go out there and just, oh, I can just putz around and win this. Like I have to make sure that I'm doing everything right.
Absolutely.
What do you think's changed? Like, Kristen's obviously gotten so good over the last year and a half, 2 years. You being the best player on the planet for over a decade, what do you think when you look at her game? What is she doing different than everybody else to kind of close that gap and be as competitive as she has been so fast? Like, is there a certain shot that she's learned? Is it putting? Like, what do you think it is? And obviously, there's other players as well. Like Katrina has been highly competitive for in that same stretch of time, but kind of a new face coming in, and we have more of those. But what particularly has Kristen done to like kind of close that gap?
Yeah. So, I can't remember what year it was, but whichever year Kristen won US Women's, the year before that, I remember we were sitting at the Green Mountain Championship under the tent, like after the round, and we're sitting there eating lunch, and there was quite a few more of us. I think Hannah and Evelina and Kristen and a couple others, but we were just kind of all gathered there talking about disc golf, and I believe we were going to be featured on Jomez Pro, and I think the how the conversation came up was like, hey, how do we get more views? Like, we're playing good golf. How do we get more views? And my input was just that I think the men get more views because they this is so generalized, but I think like in general, men have less fear than women, and that definitely translates on the disc golf course. A female player, when they're putting at OB, we're like thinking like, oh man, I don't want to putt at OB. What if I lose my disc? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna. And the man is just like, okay, I have to make this putt if I want to win. Like, you have to make the putt. And big time that happens in scrambling, where a female player gets into the woods and they pitch out, where a male gets in the woods and they don't even know, maybe there is a gap, maybe there's not. They don't tell anybody like, oh, I'm shooting out a prayer here, but they just rocket it out of the woods. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it's the same as pitching out, right? If it doesn't work, so you might as well try. And that was the conversation and the input that I gave, and it was just like, I think that's how we get more views. We stop taking our medicine or taking our bogey, and we at least try to save the par. And we try to run that putt. Maybe we putted OB, but at least it's exciting. Like, maybe the viewer at home is like, oh, that was stupid. I can't believe Paige ran that. But hey, at least it's something to talk about, and at least it's excitement. And I remember Kristen saying like, hey, I really thought about that, and she said that like, I'm gonna start running more putts, and Hannah and Evelina too, and I think collectively as a division we just decided like, hey, if we want to win the tournament, we can't lay up anymore. We got to start running these putts. So I think that was like the shift in the FPO's like confidence and fear, like going downhill. And I think once 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players started doing that, then everyone's like, wow, I guess I should be running these. And it kind of was like this spoken / unspoken thing where you got to stop laying up. And I think really that's what it is just a lot more bravery, whether that's on the putting green or scrambling, and trying to figure out more like, out of the woods shots.
So to expand on that a little bit, Paige, because we do see, going back to Waco, for example, we do see in that instance, Ella essentially kind of handing the win over to Kristen with her OB throws down the stretch, right? Had she played a little bit safer, it would have forced Kristen to do something that would probably have been pretty difficult for Kristen to do. I would say, like, watching some of your tournaments last season, sometimes when you weren't able to pull it off towards the end, some of that maybe had to do with not the putting, because I do agree with like, you have never shown fear around the putting greens. And I think that allows you to make a lot more putts than a lot of the women in FPO do. And I think that gives you a huge advantage. But we have seen maybe in the past some a little bit more aggressive play from you, of where maybe you throw an errant first shot and you really try to make up with it with a really great second shot. This tournament, I didn't really see that from you. I saw a little bit more of a course management style, and I think that shows with your OB rate. We can pull up your stats here from this tournament. You were third in OB rate. You did not throw the disc OB that much on a course that had tons and tons of OB. Was this just simply you threw the disc really well this tournament, or do you think that you did make a little bit of a change of like picking your spots a little bit more this week on when to be aggressive and when to maybe take your medicine a little bit and try to keep yourself in the tournament?
I think a little bit of a combination of those, because I was definitely throwing the disc really well, like off the tee. So I didn't really have those second, like how you prefaced it of like your first shot wasn't as good, so your second shot you would try something. My tee shots were really good this week, so I didn't really have to be aggressive on any second shots too often, maybe a few times, but I think, yeah, also some course management where I decided, and it's so hard for me to do that when it's like you're looking at a 40 footer, which you know you can make that 40 footer, but that fear creeps in and you're like, what if? What if I hit the cage and it rolls down this hill? So a couple times I decided, all right, this isn't the right time to run this putt right now. And just trying to, I guess, like somebody tonight said something about get the monkey off your back, and now that's in my head of like, you know, wanting to get the monkey off my back and win a tournament early in the season and not just like go for the putt that is going to excite me, and more so, you know, try to go for the win. But so
You,
I guess a combination.
you think back in the day too, like you could get away with it a little bit more. Like you could
Oh,
run
for
those
sure.
putts and it was fine because like you said, you were kind of chasing that like feeling of like gratification for just your own game. And maybe that motivated you because you knew, hey, I don't need to bring my best stuff and I'm still probably gonna win the tournament type type thing.
Yeah, I guess somewhat. It wasn't really like consciously thinking
Yeah.
those things, but yeah, totally. Like, you know, if I would three putt or if I would go B, or something, checking the scores and then realizing, oh, okay, cool, I still have a little bit of a buffer, and then
Yeah.
you're allowed to, you feel like you're allowed to continue to try stuff like that. So yeah, but yeah, it's quite a bit different at this point in disc golf. You know, we have 60 women, and to cash, you're having to average like 935, 940 golf.
Do you think
It looked like, oh,
if you play your best golf, Paige Pierce's best golf, do you think you still just run away? Do you think anybody's at that level to where they could keep up with Paige Pierce's best golf right now?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I missed a lot of putts that I felt like I should have hit this week. Um, but overall, I threw the disc super well. I think I really should have cleaned up my putting. Um, so I feel I could have had a few less strokes on the course,
Yeah.
but also playing with Kristen specifically that third round, uh, that wasn't Kristen. So, you know, I can say, yeah, I left some strokes out there, but so did she. So did Ella. So did Holland. So did Missy. So did Jessica Weiss. So, um, who- who's to say? And you know, I'm excited to find that out this year. I think
Yeah.
that's what I'm excited for this year is to put that to the test and to try to put down my best possible tournament and to see how it falls.
caddies are still like not a very common thing on tour. You still see a lot of pros want to carry their own bag, want to
Totally.
play their own game, and just do their own thing. It did seem like you and your caddy, I don't know who that was, but it did seem like you guys had a pretty solid relationship. Did you use them at all in some of those areas of where you were like, maybe in the past, this is something that I'd be aggressive and go for? What do you think? Or is that person simply just there to carry your bag and just to kind of be someone that you can talk to in between shots?
Yeah, I think when Nate caddies for me, it's definitely decision making help, um, because like I play so many practice rounds with him. He knows my discs and
Hmm.
he knows my percentages with certain discs and stuff like that. But Jared, his name's Jared, my caddy from the past two events. He's getting there, learning my decisions and coming to practice rounds with me so he can kind of see that stuff. But for the most part, I would say with him, it's just someone to bounce my thoughts off of and get them out so they're not in my head. Whether that's like, hell yeah, that was a sick shot, and you can't say that. I mean, I can say that to Missy, but I'm not really gonna walk over to Kristen and be like, yeah, give me some love. Like if she wants to
Mm.
give it, that's great, but I, sometimes you want that affirmation and like, yeah, sweet shot, good choice, good angle, whatever it may be, or vice versa. If you throw a terrible shot, just someone to vent it out to and get it out so it's not like stewing in your head. I would say with Jared, that was kind of more of what was going on there, basically.
Okay. Um, Another part of your game, watching you on coverage a lot over the last couple of years, a part of your game that I felt like was missing, or not necessarily like you were able to, because we've seen backhand dominant players be very successful on both sides, but it felt like you were always like kind of on the cusp of having a very good forehand, but it was something that it just felt to me like you didn't trust it. It felt like you had the ability, but like when it came down to like tournament pressure, you maybe like didn't trust it. And one thing I noticed when you teed off on hole 1, you threw a really freaking good forehand, like great angle control, great distance. And then you said something to Holland. And I think everyone knows like Holland has one of the probably better forehands in FPO. Have you been working on your forehand more to utilize not just like the scramble and stuff, but like to actually throw like power forehand shots off the tee?
Yes and no. I've been working on my sidearm a lot, but it's not. I haven't really been working on the power sidearm yet. Trying to take it step by step and not like overwhelm myself with knowledge and things. But really, I was working with angles and like I would say like up to 290, 300. I feel very confident getting the disc wherever I need it to go on any angle. But really, the power sidearm is what I'm still needing to work on. And we were talking about it. Actually, almost every round that I played, it was a topic of conversation. Just another thing that the FPO is growing on is the sidearm and the power sidearm, and especially with Holland round 3, you know, it never left the hyzer angle. It's like a power, a pushing hyzer sidearm, powerful, and she's got like what is it, hole 7, I think it is, just parking it, hole 8
Mm-hmm.
even, and that's like I think hole 7 from our pad was like 340 on a
Mm-hmm.
pure hyzer. So like I think that when I get to that point, that's when I'll feel like, okay, now I feel comfortable throwing that. But also like it's not necessarily that I don't feel confident. It's like the Anheuser in disc golf is one of my favorite things of all time to watch an
Mm-hmm.
Anheuser fly. And so like for me, it's not necessarily of like I can't do it. It's just I prefer to throw Anheisers, and maybe that costs me some strokes sometimes. But I when you feel confident and you feel like you can trust your disc and also you like it, sometimes I just feel like why throw the sidearm. But hole 1 specifically, it was might as well have said mandatory sidearm.
Yeah,
There's just
so much
Right.
easier.
yeah.
What were your thoughts on the course? Because you guys played a couple different pin locations, you played a couple different tee pads. There was a lot of obviously back and forth on the MPO side of things. We didn't really hear too much on the FPO side. So did you feel like that course played well for your guys' field?
Um, yeah, so many things about the course this week. It's like been a huge topic. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I I'm happy that we went to Austin. I think overall it was a huge success, like with the amount of spectators and the galleries and stuff. It was great. And um but there was a little bit of confusion of like why are we playing this unproven course, like this temp course. There's a lot of cool courses in Austin, but I think it worked out well. As far as like the golf and setting up for FPO, I thought it was good. Yeah, there was some good variety. I felt like uphill, downhill, flat shots, Anheisers, s- excuse me, sidearms, hyzers. I felt like there was a good variety, and I think my only complaints really are like the walk after hole 9. It's like why we're walking like zero point 0.7 miles to get
You
to
got to
hole
walk
10's tee
past the
pad, and
hole. Yeah.
yeah, hole 4 as well. After you tee off, you're like walking super far. So some of the flow was not my favorite. Um, but it also seemed like the crew took direction well, and they were like, "Hey, hole 6, that branch needs to go," and they took it down and trimmed some stuff up. Yeah, I'm curious if we're gonna go back there, but I thought it suited our field well. You got to see a lot of different shot shapes, and you know, yeah, I thought overall it was decent.
You've won a lot on tour, off tour. I'm sure you have closets and boxes full of trophies that you probably have completely forgotten about. Where
78
does
elite right? That's what I read. 78
78. Okay.
elite series.
Where does we'll throw a picture up here in a second. Where does this trophy from the Open at Austin? Where does this rank? The hat, the cowboy hat. Where does this rank as far as trophies go?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. I think the uniqueness and like I hope it continues, and where it becomes a tradition. I think that, thinking of ball golf when you're like, oh, the Masters, and you think of the green jacket, like the Open in Texas, you get a cowboy hat. Like, I think it would be cool to have traditions with trophies like that. And yeah, for me, I mean, I think it's really cool. I have a didgeridoo from Australian Open, and like, I have a belt buckle from last year from Texas States, and
Yep.
now I got a cowboy hat to go with it. And yeah, I think trophies like that are really cool.
Did they say anything about like next year that they're going to have the past winners? Like, obviously, if you win, this wouldn't work. But if someone did happen to beat you next year, do you get to present them the
Passing it
hat?
on.
Like, do you get to
Present it.
you get to keep your own hat? Like, you obviously keep your hat, but
Yeah.
you mentioned the Masters and the green jacket. The previous
Yeah.
winner is the one that gets to put the jacket on the new winner. So this could be
Interesting.
like a crowning. Like, that would be kind of a cool
That
thing.
would be
of like,
really cool.
previous winner puts the hat on the new winner.
That'd be really cool.
And
I
just,
think that happens
have
at
traditions like
USDGC.
that.
Doesn't that, Paul?
What is
Like
it,
at
ring?
USDGC, well, all
The
the
ring ceremony.
the ring ceremony. I think that might happen.
I think they're all there. Like anybody who's
Yeah.
won a USDGC all goes up there with their rings, get presented.
Yeah, which there's nothing else like that. So I mean,
No.
that would be really cool if that was something that happened. But for that to happen, we would have to have like, actual players meetings and people to actually attend those and award
Yeah.
ceremonies. We haven't really had award ceremonies since COVID. Like they just never really came back.
I was talking about this with somebody recently that I had an idea of like I really think at the end of each season we should have awards, like an actual place where you go and you have somebody like live doing like a whole show, and we all dress up in suits and our nice attire, and we sit down at a banquet, and then there's like player of the year gets announced, and you go up there, and
Mm-hmm.
shot of the year, and it's like this big celebration. I feel like in disc golf right now there's not a lot of players celebrating players, which is done in other sports, to where you can kind of take the take the gloves off and go sit down and appreciate your competitors.
Totally. Like kind of like the Grammys or something.
Yeah,
but of disc golf,
exactly.
yeah.
The Grammys
Would you
or
want
the
that to be
ESPYs.
only an invite only thing, Yuli, where it's like if you're nominated for a category or award, you get to show up? Or are you saying like you want literally 250 people to show up?
No. If you're nominated for like shot of the year or player of the year, like there's a bunch of different things, or best putter of the year or whatever it is.
So
you know
like
what I mean? Like
people,
you get to bring.
it's pretty exclusive. That'd be dope.
I think
then
that
it's like
sounds really cool. And you could also like pair it with like a little summit or like some kind of players union like meeting or something like that, I mean, there's definitely things we need to talk about at the end of the year moving forward to go better and stronger into, the next year. So I think that sounds like a great idea.
I don't.
All right. Oh, go ahead,
think,
Yuli. Sorry.
No, last thought about it is it goes back to like I really feel like for the camaraderie of the sport, like it's important to celebrate achievements and things that people, because we work so hard during the season to get those things done. We all know how hard it is, and to be able to have that kind of recognition, not from anybody else, but from the players
From your
themselves,
peers. Totally.
is so important in sports.
Totally. And like the way the season ends is just kind of weird. Like, especially this past year with the playoffs and then, the Pro Tour Championship, like people just start trickling off like, oh, they didn't qualify, or like, oh, where's that person? Oh, they didn't qualify, they're gone. And it's like, well, shoot, now I'm not going to see them for 4 months, and nobody gets a chance to say bye because we're so focused on those playoffs and the finish of the year. So also like the player of the year stuff and the the points leaders and all that doesn't get announced till like the following year at Worlds. So that would be really cool to finish the year off and like have like a
I could see
celebration.
something thrown in like at the end of the tour championship, when the tour championship wraps up, them throwing together a little bit of some sort of thing. I think they did something similar to like last year, but they like, I don't know. It was kind of, I don't know. It was kind of, I don't know if you guys went to that thing at that restaurant or whatever. It was
Hey, do you
interesting.
remember when we did the 100,000, like Joe Miz did the 100K
Yeah,
party, something like that,
something like
where we
that.
had
Yeah.
AJ Risley kind of doing he did like a little stand up bit and had them all kind of go up. Something like that would be really cool.
I agree.
All right, Paige, I got a question for you. So we mentioned it a little bit, but I'm curious as to like what your goals are for this year. And if you feel like you have something to prove this year to the viewers, the fans, the spectators. You did mention in your post interview that you feel like right now mentally you're in the best spot that you've been in. So have you been able to kind of shut out that noise? Because it is, let's be honest, it is a ridiculous thing for people to be like, Paige, and we see it on the other side too in MPO when like Paul doesn't win for a while or Ricky doesn't win or whatever, and everyone just like jumps into like that person's washed, they're trash, they're never going to win again. Have you been able to do a good job of like being able to either silence that and not see it, or have you been able to like been able to just like handle it in a different way so that way when you're on the course you're able to just focus on what you're trying to do there?
Yeah, I think it's tough at times. I do better than other times. But yeah, I try to silence everything online. The only social media I have on my phone is YouTube, and sometimes still I see stuff there or like, um, but I try not to. But then it still kind of seeps in if I do any interviews like this, or uh, what was I gonna? The press conferences before, like they might throw a stat
Mm-hmm.
out, and it's like, well, I was feeling pretty good, and now you got me thinking about that. It's kind of like Yuli, I'm sure that this has happened to you before. Like you're doing some kind of clinic, and then literally this one still sticks out to me. I still remember this. Somebody asked me one time at a clinic, like, when you're pushing off, blah blah blah, like, what is the back of your left knee doing? And I'm like, what? And I'm just like, what? And so then, like, every time for the next month that I threw, I'm like, I'm throwing and I'm thinking about the back of my left knee, and I'm like, wow, I've never thought about that before. And now I can't stop. And so it's kind of like that, where it's like someone says something, and whether it's true or not, if it's like out there, or like a statement maybe that you might have had some kind of self doubt about at some point, then it's like, oh dang, now I'm thinking about that. And so I try my best to just like turn it off, but it's easier said than done for sure. But yeah, I think like my goals are to just kind of keep that at a minimum and try to just stay like confident. But um it's tough, it really is. It's all you can do is like just try to play good golf, and whatever happens, happens. But it does suck when I feel like I have played good golf, but I guess I've set a high bar for myself in the past where 2 majors and 3 pro tour and you had a shitty season, it's like, any other
Yeah.
player that had that in their season, it would be like, dang, nice season. But for me, it's like, oh, she's washed up, or she's never going to win again. It's like, what are you talking about? That was such a good season. So yeah, there's the only thing I can do for my mental health and my confidence moving forward is to just ignore everything like that. But it sucks to not be connecting with people as much. But you know I got to do what's best for me, and that's the way it's got to be for me currently. Maybe at some point I can like rise above that and not let other people's words affect me. But it, when you got a bunch of people like commenting on your stuff, that whatever, it's sucks.
Is winning as important this year as it was 5 years ago for you?
Um, I th- at certain times it feels important, but even like after this win, like I get so many text messages or messages, and it's like, nice win, and it's all these thoughtful, nice things. But it's like, I wish those people would reach out to me when I don't win, and it makes it feel like, okay, this is what I have to do to get love and to get support and to get encouragement. And that part of it really sucks for me. And uh, but I am an athlete. So it's like, what do I expect? That's probably how it's always going to be and how it should be. But, it just is something that I think about. So yeah, I think that, I don't know. I've kind of gone through a really interesting. I've been talking with a sports psychologist because it's something that's been like an internal battle with me, where it's like I'm trying to be a good disc golfer, I'm trying to win tournaments, I'm trying to be the best player in the world, but at the end of the day, it's like I don't want to like compete. I don't know how to phrase it. Like I don't this whole thing of like I'm better than you, you're better than me. It's just toxic, but it's hard as an athlete to find that middle ground. So it's something that I'm working through, and at certain times like winning does feel super important. Other times, like, kind of what you were talking about, Yuli, with celebrating your peers. Like you just want to celebrate the good shots, whether that was from your hand or from Kristen's hand or Holland's hand. Like if a good shot is thrown, I feel honored to be that up close and to see it, or that I impressed myself and I threw this cool shot. Seems in my recent past more important than winning, but definitely going into 2024, where my discraft contract is expiring. There's a big part of me that's like, okay, I want to show discraft that um, you know I'm still their top dog and that I'm here to continue to win tournaments and to improve as a player.
One thing I do want to commend you on that I think is probably extremely challenging, because I feel like your career of like what you were able to accomplish early on is very like similar to like a Ronda Rousey. And I don't know if you're familiar with her career that she had in the UFC, but she essentially just came on the scene and completely just dominated everyone. And no, they hadn't seen anything like that before. And then when she got her first loss, all the chatter was, well, she's done. She can't do it. They figured her out. And she was never able to bounce back. She just
Dang.
never could get back to the level that she once had. And I feel like that's probably extremely difficult as a high level athlete. And I just wanted to commend you on like so early in the season already. I mean, we're only at our third elite event, and you've already taken a win down, which I think a win this year is much more difficult than last year, which is even harder than the year before. It's only getting harder and harder to win. Only one person wins every week. And I just want to commend you on that, because I think that is a very difficult thing to go through, of where to be the top dog, to be winning everything at all times. And then, like you said, you had a season that was actually a really good season if you look at it, but hearing everyone being like, not a good season, and then to be able to come right back out this season and get a win right off the bat, that's tough. That's not easy to do. And yeah, I just want to commend you on that. And I'm very excited to kind of see how this season goes, because I think there are so many top level FPO players right now. And then we have this new batch of players that is like slowly gaining to where they can pop off and be in the mix. And I think that's just good for FPO. I think that's just going to make tournaments a lot more exciting moving forward. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's going to be an awesome season, and like, yeah, I'm just excited to see what's in store. And I think it's so cool that something you said earlier about like winning on different types of courses. I think that's something I'm really excited about too, is to test my game against all of these other women's games on all types of different courses throughout the year, and some new courses as well. I know the Open at Austin was a new course, but also I'll be going to Norway for my first time, so I'm excited to see that.
Wow.
I watched the coverage par fours or par threes, and There's one new one too that U.S. Women's is in a new and like courses and test my game out.
Nice. Yuli, did you have anything else, or are we going to our favorite segment to finish it off?
No, I asked Simon this question. It's something I think I'm going to ask all the guests. Is out of all the new players coming up in the FBO, who's like one of the people who you look at their game and you think like, man, that's nice. Like, is there any up and comers to where you look at their game and you're like, dang, I really like that. That's a talented individual right there. Simon told me he liked Nicholas Antela, and that he was very impressed with how he played because of his stature. So, do you have somebody who you see who like that you like the way they play?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of people have different aspects that I'm like, wow, that putt, or wow, that sidearm, wow. But I think like the one to narrow it down to one, and also I think the most well-rounded player is definitely Holland Hanley. I think she will be an Elite Series winner this year. And yeah, she's got like a super powerful spin putt. She's making them from circle two like very often. And this we already talked about, and she's got that same distance back. She's got rollers, she's got it all. And she's a couple shots from challenging me for the win at the open at Austin. Like, she had a brutal spit out on, I believe it was 14, and brutal, like dead center from 6 feet. And the next hole, she shanked her shot, and she was like, I was just still thinking about that. I was still thinking about that spit out. So, like, really, the only part is a mental game and not letting that little spit out affect your next couple holes. When she does that, not if, when she does that, she's only going to have an Elite Series win. And I think that's going to be within the next couple months, really.
She seems like a player that when
I
she
like to
kind of
see
gets.
also.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I think we're a little delayed. Sorry. I was going to say also, I don't know if this is going to happen, but I'd like to see Haley King. I mean, I haven't played with her yet this year, so I'm not sure where she's at, like with her game or mentally, but like Holland kind of reminds me of a Haley King, like with that putt and that sidearm and that backhand. So I would like to see a resurgence of Haley and her to get her like back and come out and perform well.
Yeah, I was gonna say with Holland, I feel like she's just like one win away from being an absolute monster. Like, once she gets that first W and gets that confidence of like, I can come out here and dominate and win these things, I think it's going to take her game to a completely different level than it's already at, which is at already a pretty high level. So with that, we go to our favorite segment, Paige. This is where we ask all our guests that come on their biggest pet peeves. Now, this can be anything in disc golf. This can be what players say to you on the tee box. This can be what fans say to you after a bad round. This can be what people, whatever. It's literally anything in disc golf. Biggest pet peeves.
Okay.
If you have any off the top of your head, I know we would all love to hear them.
Yeah, I think from like spectators / fans, if I'm not seeing you on the disc golf course, don't say Paige Pierce. Just say what's up, Paige. Like, it's just, I feel weird. I just like, it's like Paige Pierce, and I'm like, oh God.
You do have a really good first and last name though. Like, it's a really good.
It
like,
rolls
you have a good,
really easily.
You have a really good name combo.
I don't say that to anybody, Yeah. My neighbor calls me Paige Powers. She was like, oh, my friends are disc golfers, and they said that my neighbor's famous. You're Paige Powers. And That's funny. But anyway, off topic. Another one is like when somebody's like, "How'd you shoot?" It's like, just check the scores, just look at the scores. Like, chances are, if I shot good, I don't want to brag about it. And if I shot bad, I don't want to bring it back up. I'm trying to work through it. So, like, I just never want to talk about what I shot after my round. Never,
Yeah.
never.
To add on to that one, because me and you have the same one with that, the when you do say like, yeah, I didn't play well, the additional pet peeve is when they're like, well, you did better than I did, and
Yeah, or you'll get
you're
them
like,
next time.
you're like, that's why
Yeah,
you're on that side of the rope, and I'm on this. I'm
yeah,
supposed to play better than you. That's my job,
yeah,
and I'm doing a
yeah.
poor job of it.
Totally. And I feel like for like a competitor, I had one. Oh, I know. I remembered it. When I'm not going to name names, but there are some players specifically that come to mind that just aren't aware when it's their turn. It's like, pay attention.
Mm,
Like, what else are you here for? Like, this is why you're here. Like, you should know when it's your turn to throw and be ready. It's not like the 30 seconds, like they're taking
yeah,
too long on their pre-shot routine. It's just like they're just like wandering around, and it's like, hurry up and like you're out again. Like, come on. And yeah, anyway, that drives me
that
nuts because I'm so
that would
anxious. I'm like,
that would speed up
yeah,
play. So I know so many people talk about like pace of play and like 30 seconds and stuff. Honestly, if players were just more aware, like when they're on the tee box and it's like they're ready to go when it's their time, like these rounds would not take nearly as long as they
definitely,
currently do.
definitely.
So those are things that would definitely make it better for us as pros, but also better for spectators because they'd be
Yeah,
seeing more action in smaller part of time.
yeah. And really that's really the only thing though. Like, I don't care what a competitor says to me. It's like they've been in my shoes and they know what, you know, usually, so I don't really mind saying nice shot or something. Some people, but I mean, your words didn't affect the flight of the disc. I don't care at all. But I think the last thing, and this is like probably been a huge topic of conversation already for you guys, is the cameraman or anyone being in the way. It's like nothing should jeopardize the golf. Like, first and foremost is the golf. Like, spotters, spectators, golf carts, whoever should not be in the fairway. And like, that has got to stop. That is like, that's quite a bit more than a pet peeve for me. I think it's like almost like filling me with like anger because it's like making our sport look like a joke at this point. And it's like every event, that's what we're talking about, is the spotter that cost the stroke, or this golf cart that Katrina hit. And, it's like, this needs to stop being a topic of conversation. And the only way to do that is get them out of the fairway. Why are they even close?
There was on hole
Last one.
5. Oh, so I was just say on hole 5 there was the
Was it? Yeah.
VIP. I was just gonna say the VIP situation is a weird one for me because like they're inside the ropes, which I get. Like that's a nice perk that you can have spectators inside the ropes. But the problem is like my first round we had it looked like a feature card. It was like me, Eagle. I'm blanking on the other two, but it was like a feature card-esque round. I have terrible memory. So
That
we
was
had like
me. I was on there just so
I'm just
so
saying when I
good.
looked at it, when I looked at the card, I was like, are we being filmed? And we weren't. But we had like 30 or 40 people walking with us. And so they were all like VIP. So we had like an actual Disc Golf Pro Tour staff member or volunteer to kind of show them where to go. My last round, I was so far down the leaderboard that we had like 5 to 10 people watching us, but they didn't have anyone there. So on hole 5, my brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, came out and watched because they live in Austin. And I'm staying on the tee pad, and my brother and his wife are literally walking where the players are walking straight at us. And Bradley Williams is on the card, and he's like, "Oh, look at these spectators! They're walking straight down the fairway." And like you could tell, like someone's about to yell at them. And I just like look at him. I'm like, get. And he's like, "Oh snap!" Like he had no idea. And like you can't expect on a course like that, you can't expect spectators there for the first time to know what the holes are and stuff. And so like that's gonna be an interesting one moving forward if they keep doing these VIP stuff of where they just have like random spectators roaming the fairways. Because the last thing we want to do is hit someone. Like that's the last thing we want to do. So Yuli, did you have anything else for Paige?
No, I just say good luck the rest of the season. It was awesome talking to you. Congratulations on the win over there at Austin. And I guess, are we going to be seeing you in Tennessee? Is that the next one? Music City Open, maybe?
Yep. Yeah, heading out to Tennessee. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Paige. I know everyone listening really enjoyed it. We wish you all the best of luck and safe travels up to Nashville. We'll see you up there.
Thank you. Soon.
All right. See ya. All right. That was Paige Pierce coming off her win at the Open at Austin. I will say too, Yuli, if we had to make picks this week for FPO, for Austin, like that tournament for FPO, I would have picked Paige. I felt like that was her tournament to lose, and for her to be able to go out there and get it done, I think that says a lot about her game this year. And I definitely saw, I watched some coverage because obviously they played in the morning, we played in the afternoon. I got to see some of the live coverage, and it does look like her game is trending up. Like her mental side, the ways that she's just playing freely this year. It looks like she's ready to kind of have these battles that I think all the fans at home are excited to watch. So that's awesome. Glad she was able to come on. Now, I know we're running a little late, Yuli. I don't know how much time you have left, so I can kind of just run through some of these topics. But there's a lot of stuff to be said. So the first one I want to say is I want to tell you my crazy cash story. Okay. So I did not play a great final round at the Open at Austin. I ended up having a birdie putt on 14, the hole that you had that high rise putt on. I airballed it straight OB, re-putted, made my bogey. Okay. At that point in time, I was like scoreboard watching, trying to figure out where the cut was. I felt at that point that if I birdied out 15, 16, 17, 18, I would have gotten to 8 under, and I felt like at that moment, like that was probably safe for last cash. I got 15, I got 16, I didn't get 17. So now at this point, I look back at the leaderboard and I'm like, all right, if I do not birdie 18, I have 0% chance. There's no way I make cash. If I birdie 18, I need some stuff to happen, but there's a chance that -7, it would get me to 7 under par for the tournament, and there's a chance that 7 under par would get me cash. So never birdied it previously, not even close. Ended up throwing a great shot, ended up throwing a great flippy nuke, got all the way up there, had like a 40-footer behind the basket long, step putt, nicks the top of the cage, dribbles over and in. I'm just like fist pumping, like, yeah. So then I immediately go and look at the leaderboard as I'm like walking back to my car, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, the only thing that needs to not happen right now for me to cash, because I'm right now in a huge tie for 46th place, which is last cash. The only thing that needs to not happen is I need Andrew Presnell not to birdie 18. That's all I need. And here's the thing, say what you want. I'll be the first to tell you, I root against people all the time. And I feel like if you're not rooting against people, what the flip are you doing? Like, obviously I want people to do well and whatnot, but at this moment in time, I'm not hoping that Andrew Presnell has a blow-up hole and like quadruple bogeys 18.
You definitely don't want him to birdie.
Yeah, I'm just hoping he's like in a position where he's like, you know what, the birdie here is probably pretty tough. I'm just gonna like lay up and take my par and move forward, and like we're all happy. The dude freaking birdies 18, and I'm like, so I see my little number that's like T46 all of a sudden change to T47, and I'm like, all right, what the heck? We're doing our practice round on Monday, filming our practice round on Monday. At the end of our practice round, I open my emails, and I get an email from Jeff Spring. And it's sent to everyone. And I skim through it real quick, and I'm like, turn that camera on right now. Turn that camera on right now. And I'm like, Ezra, let me read you this. This is incredible news. And it was the email that basically this was like, due to PDGA policy, we have to pay out 40% of the field. And I guess because of the way the ties were, they weren't paying out 40% of the field. So they had to bump it up. And they're like, we will now be paying out the 47th places. And I was like,
that's awesome.
so I got $50.
Yeah, how many people did you tie with?
4. It was they allocated, I guess, $200 for 47.
Nice.
And so,
Dude, there's
so
something
4 of us.
about it. Like missing cash is the worst. Last cash when you do it, and we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, which you
It's
now know
lovely.
is
It's a
true.
grind.
There's no better feeling,
It's a
and
grind.
there's no pressure like last cash pressure. There just isn't. They're just because you got to dig so deep. I almost like to say that it's the same as like trying to win a tournament, except trying to win the tournament with the worst skills that you could have. You know what I mean? Like, because you're obviously not playing good.
Yep.
So you're battling with people who are probably not as good as you are, but they're
Mhm.
playing as good as they possibly can play. So they're fist pumping and like coming after you, and you're struggling, obviously.
It's
And
tough.
so then there's this weird pressure thing to where you're trying to beat these guys, but they're trying to beat you. And it's a hard thing. They like pull you down, I swear. It's like they're down here and they're just like tugging on your leg, and they're just like, no, you're coming down here with the last cash people.
Yeah, it definitely made obviously me playing not that great at that tournament. It made it a little bit better, obviously, moving forward. But we'll see. I want to throw Silas real quick. Can you throw up the picture of Gannon Buhr in the hat? Because this dude can pull off a cowboy hat. Not everyone can pull off a cowboy hat. I feel like Gannon was looking pretty swaggy in his cowboy
He
hat.
looks like a country boy. He does.
There was some comparison between him and that like Walmart country kid. You remember that
That's
kid
exactly
in Walmart?
what I was just thinking.
There was some comparison between the two of those. But yeah, Gannon took it down, and this is also back-to-back tournaments, Yuli, that the winner has come off of chase card. And you obviously big post-produced guy with Jomez, but like, is this one of the reasons why live is the best way to consume tournaments? And then because I will never go back and watch a live stream, right? Like if I want to watch next year, if we play the same course and I'm like, I want to kind of get an idea of what the course was again and see the holes, I'm not going to DGN and watching the 4-hour broadcast. I'm going to Jomez and watching you guys. So I think to me, post-produce still belongs. There is a spot for it. It makes a lot of sense. But do you feel like with the fact that we're seeing this happen more often? It used to never happen, right? Like people off the chase card winning, that just never happened. But with how close the field is, do you feel like more people are going to be like, bro, I need to watch live? Because like I literally just watched Jomez. I didn't even see the winner.
No, for sure. I mean, live is always, not always, because it hasn't until this point, but moving forward, live is always going to be the thing to watch. It just is. I mean, there's certain aspects that make live in other sports like the commodity, and the number one thing is like fantasy football, gambling, different things like that. You have to watch that in person live. Like there's something to that. Like I've never watched a football game the next day. I haven't, or a baseball game, but I do watch ESPN and I watch highlights.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like as time goes on, maybe that's where post-produced content is going to be. Maybe they can pivot into like a highlighted sports show about what happened at the tournament, because live eventually, if it were me, live eventually is going to be the thing. And then you're just going to edit that down and make that the post-produced product. I mean, that would be what
that
I
makes
would do,
the most
right?
I would just say you guys do bring like you guys specifically as Jomez do bring like a little bit more of an interesting product than if they were to just do that, right? Because I think when you're able to digest the coverage and also you guys have played the courses most of the time, it's a little bit different than when you are there commentating live and then all of a sudden you hear in your ear like, hey, we're switching to hole 7 again. It's got a 40-foot putt. Like it is a different way of being able to commentate those. So I feel like you guys do have a place to where, but to me, it seems like that would be like the Hardo fans. That would be like the people that are like, I can't get enough disc golf.
Yeah.
I watch live and then I watch Jomez after it. it seems like the people that just want to know what happens in the tournament, it seems like more people are going to probably shift to live. And then versus like using Jomez or Gatekeeper or Central Coast to be I don't pay attention to what happens in the tournament, and I wait to see what who wins in post.
Well,
because sometimes you're not going to see who wins.
Well, the thing about it is like I come from a generation where we didn't have nothing. So post produce was fantastic. I mean, VHS was a thing when I was coming up to where I'd watch that thing over and over again just to watch King Climo play. You know what I mean? And so I was always under the impression of like, this is fantastic that we have anything. Now that we have live, and we've kind of dabbled in live through the course of time in disc golf. Like we had Disc Golf Planet. And so we've dabbled in it, but I've always thought like live was going, and that's not a diss on anybody. Like I love my job. I love Jomez. We bring a great product. Still the most popular product maybe in disc golf, is Jomez. But I mean, logic takes over, and I have to think live is going to be king. It has to be. Like it's sports. It's sports.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
A couple key things to kind of brush through real quick before we go to a couple topics. I want to just like have a few minutes to talk about a few things, and then we'll kind of wrap up here. So something that we saw also, we mentioned this earlier, the top 6 were all from different cards. I think this has a lot to do with just how the course was set up in a way where if you were playing really well, you can get a lot of birdies out there and shoot low. If you weren't playing really well, you were dropping down the leaderboard. To me, that was fascinating to kind of see, because in the past, it's like if you were on chase card, no one thought you had a chance of winning. And it'll be interesting to see if this continues with just how deep the field is getting, or if this was just a specific like course kind of, it only happened because of this course, or are we going to see more of this? But I think that's fascinating. I think it's fascinating to have someone get in the clubhouse early and have a lot of people sit out on the course, and you to be like, is that score going to hold off? Versus in the past, we've seen people finish and they're like first on the leaderboard, and like the commentators don't even talk about it because they know like, well, yeah, they've got their 5 shots ahead of the leaders, but the leaders have 8 holes left and they're going to birdie at least 7 of those holes.
Yeah.
So that doesn't even matter. What were your thoughts on, specifically, because I think Paul was the most vocal one with his post-round interview. What were your thoughts on his comments on hole 17, 18? Do you like, because I think it's two sides of the coin here. You're going to have some people that are just big Paul McBeth fans or big Ricky fans or big Calvin fans, and whatever they say, they're just going to be like, yep, that's like the God honest truth. That's what we're going with. And then there's going to be other people to be like, I saw a lot of people be like, it sounds like he's just whining about the course. And you see this too in other sports as well, of where players are like, basically like saying certain conditions aren't fair or whatever. Do you feel like that is the right place for players to address their, frustrations with a course? Is like in an interview setting like that?
I do. I actually do. I think that if more players were more honest, it wouldn't be such a surprise. I think they give you that platform to get your real thoughts out there, and they ask you the question, why would they ask that if they didn't want the honest truth? And I think Paul's always been the type of guy who lets you know how he feels about something, especially if he's angry. And I wish, talk about pet peeves is one of the things I've seen a lot is somebody really complaining about a lot of things, and then they win the tournament all of a sudden, and then they're out there saying, this is the best course I've ever played, wow, I'm coming back next year, and blah 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 blah, and nothing gets done with that sort of behavior, because tournament director doesn't learn anything about it if he thinks that you had the greatest time ever and you won. I think that honesty is our best policy, especially with the players who do have a voice, and he does. There are certain people out there who complain so much that if they complain, everybody, and you and I included, are like, that's all he ever does. There's nothing. It goes in one ear,
wolf, right?
Yep, out the other. But somebody like Paul, there's merit there. You know, he's seen a lot. He's seen a lot of disc golf courses in his life. He's played a lot of them. That's like it's not like some guy who just complains all the time. So his voice needs to be heard. Now, do we all have to agree with it? No, but that's like a platform you and I have right now. That's for
I
us to
think
debate and then get our opinion out there to where just don't be shy about it.
I think like to Simon's point, for example, right, of where he was saying like winning isn't really all that matters that much. It's more about like your fans and selling discs. I think that is a slight issue that we have currently with how small
Yeah.
disc golf is and with how few voices are heard out there. Of where if you were to go against something that like Paul said, you're basically ostracizing yourself to that fan base, right? And so I think that's a lot of times why we don't hear a lot of what you were saying, like players just speaking the truth, because there were a lot of players that really did like that course. But for them to come out and say, like, I think Paul's just whining and complaining, like that's a scary thing probably for some of them, especially up and coming players that don't have a big fan base themselves, because you literally are now ostracizing yourself from the biggest fan base in disc golf, which is Paul Macbeth fans. So that's a weird spot right now.
Yeah, I think it's important for these kids, like you're saying, to be able to articulate those thoughts in a professional manner to where they're going to be able to go against somebody like that. Like that's something that is also very important is the way that you come across when you're taking on something like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Posting about it and being like blah 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 blah. I don't agree with you. You're just whining. Not the best way to do it. But if you can come up with a I guess a courageous thought of your opinion that makes sense in an articulate way to where you don't sound like a dummy, it's fine to have a different opinion. And I think that's one of the things that the younger generation really needs to work on is to be better in front of a camera. To ask the tour to go in front of the camera and do those things. You know what I mean? Because the only way you're going to get better at that is by doing it and learning.
Yeah, and I want to see more original thought, I guess is what I want to see. I want to see players actually say what they think and not, okay, well, the number one player in the world and the one that has the biggest fan base or Joe Mez said this, and so I'm just going to go with that. Like, I don't think that's great for the sport to continue to grow. And I also just think as far as like fans are concerned, like watching something, I don't want a group think. I don't want like everyone to just all of a sudden like just say like, yep, this is the right way of doing it because so and so said it. I would love to see more original thought and players being a little bit less afraid of coming out of their shell and actually, showing their personality a little bit and giving some, like you said, some of their actual thoughts out there in a good, articulate way.
Right, because like for example, I worked for Jomez. I also said that live is going to be king. If I did that in a different way, it could have come across as like, well, he doesn't even like working for Jomez. That's not the case.
Yep.
It's just that this is the world we live in. You know what I mean?
Yep. All right, let's show the video real quick. I'm sure everyone has seen it. If you haven't, though, this is the shot that I think. I mean, it is one of the worst things that could potentially happen. I would say is getting hit on the top of the head with a grenade.
From Eagle.
Yeah, from Eagle, nonetheless. However, I think, unfortunately, something like this.
No! Oh gosh!
I think something like this needed to happen because we've talked about it earlier. We saw Anthony Barella hit a volunteer in the middle of the fairway. We saw Eric Oakley at Waco hit a spectator right in the chest. We've seen this time and time again. And up until this point, we haven't seen anyone drastically get injured to the point of where change really needed to happen. This guy went to the hospital. This guy got eight staples in his head. That was probably the best case. I talked to Seth a little bit about it. He was telling me like that was the best case scenario. Like he got super lucky with the injuries. It could have been really bad. Had he like looked up to be like, wait, what? And it come down like there is a lot of things that could have been really bad there. Do we see actual change? Do we see the Disc Golf Pro Tour coming out and saying something along the lines for not only staff members' safety, but also spectator safety? Like, do we see some sort of change after this? That, because again, let's all be honest, this was not Eagle's fault. Eagle did nothing wrong in this scenario. He has a job to do. He's playing disc golf. He threw the shot that was the best shot for him at that point. Not Eagle's fault at all. This stuff is going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. So do we see something happening with the Pro Tour and big change here?
I mean, you kind of have to after an employee gets smacked in the head. You know, he's where he's supposed to be. Eagles throwing it where he's supposed to be. Like nobody's in the wrong here. It's just a bad system then. Like he's just randomly going to get hit. Like where is he going to stand to be able to get that shot? You know what I mean? And we see this in traditional golf. People get hit all the time, mostly spectators, but cameramen have gotten hit as well. That's part of the job. I think this was a rare. I keep saying that every single week, but this was a rare
it keeps
case
happening.
where the guy gets a spike hyzer to the head. He's the only person there, and he gets smacked. You know, in that little 10-foot area, perfectly right on the head. I mean, I guess we could try to get them like hard hats or something. They could like be maybe a safety precaution, but I feel
I
like
said
it's
just roll them out in like goalie hockey uniforms. Like it's a full padded, everything padded up,
yeah.
just straight.
Also, this, you know, I hate saying this, but this is a perfect example of where a couple mandatories could have been put into place to where the rule was you couldn't go over the top of this thing. I don't think that was a shot that the hole was designed to have. I bet you they didn't even think it was possible when they designed it. They're like, okay, we have this narrow gap, and the first thing that we do when we get to a place is we want to take the gap away because this is easier. And so maybe a little course design issue as well, to where that could have been a bit of change there.
Yeah.
To where thumbers and stuff like that, because this happens a lot when somebody gets out of the woods, then all of a sudden they're throwing and they don't know where they're going.
No, they're just trying
You know
to
what I mean? They're
advance the disc.
just trying,
Yeah.
hucking the disc wherever. I mean, it's bound to happen. It happens all the time. People get hit all the time. This isn't a rare thing. People get hit all the time at local courses when there's not even tournaments. So I'm not surprised. I'm saddened, and I wish the best for that guy, and I hope he makes a full recovery because that was brutal, man. I saw the pictures, watched the video. Prayers go out to him.
All right, payouts. I did go back and look at previous tournaments. Like I looked at Las Vegas Challenge and I looked at Waco. Tournaments have happened before. The payouts have consistently gone up year after year, but it's hard. I just feel like disc golf has changed a lot in the last couple of years to where, do we feel like winning an elite event on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, do we feel like $7,500 is where first place payout should be right now? Does that
Is that
feel?
what I didn't look at the payout for this last weekend? 7,500 was for first.
I believe 7,500 is what it's been at every event so far. And so what that makes me feel like, 2 times are up for Texas States, but what that makes me feel like is, regardless of whether or not this tournament got a whole bunch of money or didn't get a whole bunch of money, the Pro Tour is just kind of setting that standard of like $7,500. And if it made, if the tournament made more, then they can like use that money for the Tour Championship later or whatever. But I mean, there definitely is something going on in the sense of like, there's no way all 3 of these tournaments made the same amount of money to where first place should be $7,500, right? So like that's something that is intentionally being done by the Pro Tour to make first place $7,500.
Yeah,
there was
like,
a lot of people out there this week, Yuli.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is, I feel like it's low. And I feel like it's low because of the amount of people I see out there.
There's a lot of people out there. I mean, my brother paid $30 for his wife. I mean, he got my VIP pass or whatever that we get.
But then you got to think about like all the vendors going out there, all the staff, security, parking, all that stuff, renting the place. There's a lot of money that goes into that stuff, but
do you feel like that's what's happening
low
right now? Is like, do you feel like in the 2 years ago when the payout was $500 less, right? So it's like $7,000 instead of $7,500. Do you feel like 2 years ago they just weren't paying for as much stuff, security and ropes and all that stuff, and then this year more of the money is going that route?
Well, the more spectators you get, the more stuff you have to buy.
Like, should a good question here is like the tour card stuff, right? We pay a lot of money to have the tour card stuff. Should there be an option of where it's like, you know what, I'm going to buy my own snacks. I don't need the Pro Tour to provide me with snacks. So like, let's take that money that right now is going towards snacks and let's put that into the payout.
I mean, this is what I think. The tour card, the way I feel about a tour card is this: if you're one of the top guys and you earn your tour card, you shouldn't have to pay a thing, and they should have all that stuff for you, because the product that they're going to be putting out is you, the player, which means the player is valuable, the most valuable commodity, because without the players, what are you going to film?
Yep.
So I don't think that the player should be paying 1 cent, not 1 cent at this point. We should be able to come in, go into a clubhouse, have the thing, have a nice spot, whatever. The players should be the first thing that they think about, like making sure that they're comfortable. Because you want your players being the healthy, comfortable, ready to go out there and give you the best product that you can do. Period.
So in order for the Pro Tour to do that, let's say they come out and say, okay, you want a clubhouse, you don't want to pay entry fees, you don't want to do all that. Well, now, because entry fees are such a huge part of the payout currently, if you don't want to pay for anything, now instead of paying for $7,500, you're now paying for $4,000. Would you want that situation where the payouts get lower, but your expenses also get lower to where you're not having to?
I don't mind paying for the tournament to get into the tournament to compete for a prize, but I'm saying everything other than that should just be included.
Oh, I see.
I should have to pay an entry fee to play in the event, yes, or my sponsor should have to pay an entry fee to play in or the tour card is a certain amount of money and you pay for it.
To eternity, you think? You're saying that for eternity? You should always have to pay to play an event, is what you think?
No, but I think
like right now.
Yeah, right. Like, my original thought is, if things were perfect in a perfect world in disc golf, you earn your tour card, and that's yours, and the PDGA pays you to do it, or the Pro Tour pays. Like, you're now good. You're good to go. Everything, all expenses are paid for you as far as the tournament goes. You get there, you have your water, you have your, just like in traditional golf, I'm pretty sure they don't just go in there and have to pay for really anything, right?
They pay the locker room fee that goes to the actual club, but the locker room fee the locker room fee is like $50 or $100, and yeah, it goes back to
it doesn't go to the PGA
payouts,
though.
No, it doesn't go to it goes to the actual club.
The club.
Yeah. I don't know.
Do you agree or
saw. No, I agree. I definitely agree. I don't know if we are necessarily there. I do think if you did,
obviously,
I think if you took a poll of the top 100 players that are touring, and you asked, hey, we have this. Like, if you're like this, if you show them the allocation of funds, and you're like, this is where money is going, I think a lot of pros would be like, listen, our payouts are so small right now. Like, it's different. If you're paying $1 million to win a tournament, right? But you're spending $10 million on everything else to make the tournament even better. I don't think pros in that scenario would be like, no, make the tournament worse and let's get $2 million to play for. I don't think that would be an argument because the money is so high. But right now we're playing for $7,500, and it just $7,500 versus $1 million contracts that some players have. It's so massively the massive gap to where I think a lot of pros would say, hey, listen, I get that you're spending $10,000 on this thing for this tournament. We don't care. We don't care about that. Put that $10,000 into the purse. So we'll see what happens moving forward. I think if it continues to stay low, I think that you will start seeing more and more pros be vocal about it.
You're also talking to somebody who used to go to national tours, and I think I won my only national tour I won. I got $1,600 for.
Yeah.
So
no, it's gone way up. Obviously, it's gone way up. But my question is like, has it gone up with where it should be going up? Right.
I think that's something we could really find out with like the numbers and everything. Like that could be an answer that logically we could actually put on paper.
Yeah, because it's you for sure. You can say, well, last year we only did 7,000. This year we're doing 75. We're doing more, and it's like, well, yeah, but if your revenue if the Disc Golf Pro Tour's revenue has 10x, should each tournament only be going up 500? We'll see. Maybe we have
you
Jeff
just said
on.
You got last cash and got $50. That's hilarious.
Well, that's the other thing too, is like last cash at this point is like, it's not even about the money. It's just saying that you actually cashed.
Yeah.
$50 is doing nothing.
It's not even your, like last cash wasn't even your entry fee back, right? You lost money.
Like $300, like not even close. It didn't even pay for my groceries. So
no, I'm saying for the entry fee, what was it? Isn't it $300?
It's like $325 or $350 or something.
So you lose money if you get last cash.
You're not making anything. If you live in a tent on the side of the street, you're not making anything. So
you should at least get your money back for last cash. I guess that's where my point goes to. Yes, it's low.
Yeah, maybe that's what they should do. And like whoever, I shouldn't have cashed, and they should have had cash at like 40th place that got $300 or something. Yeah. So, all right. A lot of DNFs this tournament. Not sure if you paid attention to it. We had Ricky, Bradley Williams. We had Luke Humphreys. We had Chandler Fry. We had a weird situation with Chandler Kramer. I don't know what happened there. He was on, because he's with Lone Star, he was on like the main feature card. And then literally the day before the tournament, like the Pro Tour had already posted like, this is the feature card. And then the Chandler Kramer made a comment being like, I'm not playing. So he was at the event.
Never playing. And then he had to go, he was in a wedding.
Interesting, because he was at the event. I saw him at the event, but maybe he had to go to a wedding on Sunday, so that way he was like, I'm not going to be able to play or something. I don't know. The only one that's like a real concern here, because I don't know what happened to Luke Humphreys. I know Chandler has like a swollen knee, and it sounds like Chandler Fry has a swollen knee. And Bradley Williams, I played with him. He has like some numbing thing going on with his hand. I'm not sure how serious that is, but the serious one here is Ricky. Okay. And we've talked about this before with injuries and coming back too soon. Ricky made a tweet. He said, well, I came back too early. Wrist was not ready for competition. It got steady and more swollen throughout the round. I won't be coming back until I am 100% ready. And once I do, I'll be more ready than ever. Now, I feel like this kind of contradicts a little bit of what he said previously, because it sounded like going into this tournament, it sounded like he was ready to go, feeling good. And now he's like, I'm not going to come back until I'm 100%. So I don't know if that was, I don't know what's going on with him, but whatever it is, I feel like he just needs to shut it down. Like just shut it down until he's in a spot where he can move forward, because doing this like yo-yo thing that he's been trying to do, it sounds like, of where I'm sure he's very eager to get back on tour. And I'm sure he's also in his position where his sponsors and stuff are probably putting pressure on him, like, yo, bro, we're not paying you to just like stay at home. But at the same time, like, you're also not paying him to like go out there when he's injured and hurt himself even more. So the whole tour would be much better off with a healthy Ricky. And whether that's in 2 weeks from now or a month from now, that's what I think everyone wants. And so I don't know. I like, does he just have the bug of where it's like, I got to get out there. And he's pushing it too hard?
Well, I don't know. I think if he made the decision to go out and play, he probably thought he was good to go. And then he quickly found out that he wasn't. And that's something that happens in sports, dude. Like you pull a groin and then you think you're ready, and then one little tweak, and then guess what? I'm not ready. I thought I was ready. I did all of the work I was supposed to do. I felt ready to go, and then you move a little different. Maybe tournament power gets going, and something happens to where you're like, oh, yep, I guess I'm not ready. So it's a
But
tough
don't
thing
you feel
because you
like that
can't.
stuff should be tested out beforehand? Like I
By
feel like that's
who?
himself. Like there's no way, or is this like a line flare up? Is this something that was not an issue, and then all of a sudden it just flared up out of nowhere?
I mean, I
Because
think at
like
this point, that's what we're looking at is it's his line. It's not like he broke his wrist or did something. It's just
yeah, it's just like
it's a
swelling
random
that he
act.
can't get control
It's
of.
a yeah.
Yeah, because what you mentioned, like, yeah, we've seen that all the time where someone's like, yeah, this person is coming back in a playoff situation of where they're banged up, they're coming back, they're not 100%
Hmm.
yet, but they're trying to go because their team needs them. And
Yeah.
it's like, if they get injured, who cares? The season's over, anyways. So it's like,
Yeah.
why not? Versus this scenario, it's like, and maybe it's a situation of where like he can't injure it that much, right? Like he can't make it worse.
Right.
Maybe it's that one of those things where it's like, yeah, just go out there and try because it's not like you're going to mess it up even worse. But I think just like we just need him to get healthy and get back. I
Yeah.
mean, he's
And
the
I
number
think
one player in the world. He needs to figure it out to hopefully get back out here because I know we're all missing watching him play.
yeah, reading that message that he sent to the world, it sounds like that's the plan now. Make sure to get that, because I do know that he went to the doctors in Austin, and he went to different places to get opinions and make sure that he was good to go. So I don't think that was something that he did by himself.
All right, another story that dropped. We're not going to really talk too much on this. I just want to kind of let people know that that have not been in the news that Prodigy ended up dropping their injunction and restraining order against Gannon. Now, what this basically means is the lawsuit is still like happening, but the part of the lawsuit that was not allowing him to sign with another manufacturer that has been dropped. So do we see an announcement from Gannon within the next couple weeks of I am going to this person, I'm playing now with these discs? Do we see that happening, or do you think he just stays with Prodigy through the rest of the season and then goes on his merry way next year?
If it was me, I can't answer for Gannon, but if it was me, I would play with Prodigy for the rest of the season, especially after winning the USDGC and then just winning Austin. I'm not changing my disc, bro. I'm going out. I'm going to dominate. I'm feeling good. And I play the rest of the year and be like, hey, you know what, Prodigy? I'm sorry. This is great. Pay me all my bonus money. And then next year, go to the highest bidder because he's going to be worth more than anybody anyway. That's what I would do as a player if I was in his situation. You can't tell me that's not what you would do.
No, I mean that makes a lot of sense. I know right now Prodigy is like in a weird spot because they had to make they had to make a post being like, "Congratulations for Gannon to win," and like in the comments, it's just like every comment is just absolutely roasting them.
But
So
you could totally mend the relationship right there. Be like, hey, I'm playing with you guys for this. I'm gonna do my contract. Everything's all good. You guys get the recognition of like our discs are really good. I'm winning with your disc.
yeah,
Mend the relationship and then do whatever you do at the end of the season. I wouldn't mess with my game though. That's what I'm saying. Like he's playing nice right now. I wouldn't mess with it at all.
he looks like he's going to be tough to beat at these events. So
Yes.
so we'll see. We'll stay on pins and needles, waiting to hear if anything moving forward with Gannon. All right, Champions Cup Fiasco. Did you hear about this?
No. Hit me.
Okay, this list that I'm showing you right here, these people are not in the Champions Cup. And for those listening, we have names like Casey White, Tim Barham, Luke Humphreys, Noah Meitzma, Matt Dollar, Nate Perkins, Zach Arlinghouse, James Conrad, Kevin Jones, Andrew Presnell, Garrett Gerthy, Andrew Marweed, Ezra Aderhold, all those people right now are not in the tournament. And it doesn't look like they're going to get into the tournament unless someone drops out. And I mean, you're looking at like James Conrad, a world champion. He's 11th on the list, on the wait list. So the issue with this is essentially, first off, when you get the tour card, it automatically signs you up for every Elite Series event, Elite event and every Silver event. Okay. I think there was a little confusion here because majors give you Disc Golf Pro Tour points. So there is a connection between majors and the Disc Golf Pro Tour. However, they aren't connected with the actual auto sign up. And I learned about this from European Open. I've talked about this. I signed up for the European Open and got an email back being like, we're refunding you because you need to qualify. And I was like, what the heck? There's a qualifier for the European Open? That's news to me. Champions Cup, there was a tiered registration. Like, obviously, some people did get invited and are automatically in. But for the rest of us, there was a tiered registration process. And if you weren't on your A game and knew when it was, you didn't get into this event. And so it's not like this event has a bunch of heavy hitters of where you're just like, oh my gosh, well, yeah, like they're not in it, but like everyone else in the event is incredible. Like they're so good. There are some dark horse people in this event. So like, I mean, I'm not going to name out names of people that I'm like, how the heck is this person in and this person isn't? But I know people like talking about ratings. There are 4 people in this event that are not rated 11,000. 1,000, sorry. There are 4 people that are rated in the 900s in this event. So who's at fault here? Is it a lack of communication? Is it on the players? Like you should have known? What's going on?
I think this is a classic world ranking issue. If we had a good world ranking system, it was
top
like
100
the end
players
all,
get in, baby.
the top however many players are already in, and they can just copy and paste it straight to the thing. And then
Done
for
and
the rest
done.
of the players, it's sponsors exemptions, it's play-ins, it's qualifiers, and that's the way that it works. I mean, it solves all the problems. So I think that's where I would say the blame is now, because that's not a real thing, and for some reason we don't like world rankings in this sport. It comes down to the tournament didn't do a good enough job advertising that it was open for registration. And that's the PDGA, the Elite Series, everything all the way across the board should have helped push that out and been like, hey, everybody, blah, blah, blah.
Don't forget to sign up.
It's also the players' fault because they didn't sign up either. I got lucky and I saw it scrolling through Facebook and I'm like, what? Sign-ups? Okay. And I clicked the link and I got on there. Otherwise, I would be part of that crowd too. And I've never been left out of a tournament ever. I think there was one time it was a Creekside Open and they didn't let me in the tournament. I'm still salty about it. Still salty. But anyways, there's certain tournaments that are important. Like, just sign up for them.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see
And
what
if you don't
happens
understand the
forward.
way that it works, as far as like the Elite Series, like I even know that the Elite Series, that means you don't get into the majors, because how are you going to sign up for the USCGC? It's a qualifier so obviously you don't just get into that one. You don't just get into the European Open. And so I also feel like that it's the player's fault for not really knowing. I'm saying I didn't know because of the time. I didn't know that they just like dropped it. This is when it is. I might even got a text message from somebody or something. I don't even know.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I think, something like this happening. I think it's going to make a lot of players be overly anxious next year. And like, because what I do is once I get information on something, I literally jot it down in like my calendar of like, this is when signups are for this tournament. Otherwise, I would be in the exact same boat as a lot of these players.
I just got the email for the World Championships, the 27th. We can sign up.
Oh, it must be nice, man. I don't think I got that email. Like, I don't think I'm in that. I think you got that email because you're in the highest class of signups. I think I'm in the next one.
Don't know how that works.
Well, I think it's based off like your rating or place. It's based off of something, but there is
If it's any of those things, I'm at the bottom tier, my friend, right now.
I don't know what to tell you. I didn't get an email. All right, I didn't get an email.
I'll forward it to you.
It's in my freaking spam.
Send it to James and Ezzy.
All right, it's been a long show. We appreciate everyone listening. Yeah. This is now time for where we make our picks. And honestly, you're at a huge disadvantage because you're not playing this tournament. And this is a new course. So you have no idea what style of play is needed out here.
I'm going to pull up my little laptop here so I can check out the...
And, yeah, you should have watched me and Ezra's practice round. You would have gotten a good idea of what to pick. How are we doing first picks this? Are we just alternating? Is that how we've been doing it? So you went first, then I went first. So you got first pick.
I don't even have to look. I'm taking Gannon. That's the way that's going down. First pick.
All right. Yuli goes with Gannon. All right. Easy for me. Low ceiling on a lot of these holes. It's going to be windy. It's going to require a lot of shots. Lots of OB on the left and right side of these fairways. You want someone. I don't know why I'm giving you all this information, but I'm a man of the people, and I'm telling the audience what's going to happen. You want someone that has the ability to throw really good straight fairway drivers, really good straight drivers. I don't think there's anyone in the world that does it better than Calvin Heimberg. So I'm going Calvin as my second pick. Then my first pick, sorry. And then I get another pick, and I am going with this next one's going to be tricky. You know what? I'm going to go with Kyle Klein. I think that's actually a really good freaking pick by me. So I got Calvin and Kyle Klein. I do say so myself. I think that's going to bode very well for me. So you got your two picks now.
Yeah, this thing isn't working, dude. All right, here we go.
Who do you want? Who do you want, man? I'll tell you who you should pick. I'll tell you who you should pick.
Hey, don't tell me what I should pick.
Oh, I've got a good one for third. I don't think you're gonna steal this guy either. No, I don't like that. No, I'm going against it.
Ah, man. All right. So for my second pick.
Yes.
I'm gonna go with wild card, kind of, because what you just explained to me didn't sound like his sort of game, but he's kind of nice with it. Anthony Burrell is gonna pop off this time.
That's a good one. Okay.
And then
final pick. No chance you pick this guy that I'm thinking of right now. No shot. Really? Yeah, but I think he's guaranteed a top 10. I don't think he's got a chance to win it, but he's a guaranteed top 10.
I'm going with Matteo.
That's a good pick. That's not who I was thinking. But that's a good pick.
Low ceiling tunnel shots, you told me? That sounds like Matteo all day.
Well, I didn't say tunnel. I said just a lot of low ceiling distance shots that you want to throw straight. But that could be good for Matty. I'm going to go with my boy Mason Ford. I'm going with my boy Mason Ford because I think a tournament like this, with how the conditions are going to be, they're going to be windy, staying in bounds, throwing straight shots, controlled shots is going to be very important. I think Calvin and Kyle can do that with their power. I think Mason can do that with his angle control. And I like Mason Ford in my final spot.
Can I switch out? Last minute.
We've never done that before, but I'll allow it.
I'm gonna take Matteo out, and I'm gonna put Joel Freeman in.
That's a good pick. There's a couple really good forehand holes too, and Joel's got a pretty good forehand. So
all right, Joel Freeman in there.
Gosh, could you imagine how dumb you would be if Matteo like breaks through and gets his first win on the Pro Tour like at this event? That would be you. That would be the Yuli curse. Like it would literally start as the Yuli curse.
Or what if Joel Freeman just wins by 8 and I look like a genius?
Yeah, if you do, I mean, you literally, it could go either way for you. People are either going to say you're the smartest analyst in disc golf, or they're going to say that you have the worst luck ever. Could go either way, but I think without further ado, folks, I think that's it. I mean, I told you this was going to be a wild show. 2 big interviews. We had over 1,000 people live. So if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever, on your way to work, we appreciate you. But if you're around Wednesday nights, we're live here on YouTube, the Foundation Podcast channel. It's awesome. The chat's been going off nonstop, which is awesome. We had a couple new channel members too, so we'll shout you guys out next time. And we do appreciate all the ratings that you guys have been giving on those podcast platforms. And we also appreciate all the likes and shares and all that stuff that you've been doing on this podcast. And we appreciate everything, man. This is fun. Like this, honestly, this is something that I look forward to doing every week, and just chopping it up with Yuli. So we appreciate all the support you guys have given us. And like I said, Tour Life merch at some point we got to have a disc. I feel like that logo would be sick on a disc. So we'll see what happens. But Yuli, do you have anything else for the people before we go?
Nope. We just appreciate you. Like you said, this is awesome every single week. And I don't know how we're going to be able to top this. I mean, Paige, Pierce, Simon Lizotte, we're going to have to do some work to get a couple people that will match that. That was good stuff.
There is someone that I have in mind that would probably break the disc golf internet if they came on this podcast. And I think it's in the works. So I think there is ways of getting better and better. So we will see. You guys will just have to stay tuned for that. But that's it. Silas, I think we're all good on your end. And we appreciate everyone. And we'll see you guys next week. Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. right here live on YouTube. Thank you guys so much.